go. View the slideshow.
How come you never do the countdown thing where you go 5, 4, and then just mouth the 3, 2, 1 so that we don't fuck up the set?
Oh, I should do that.
It just feels a lot more official.
I keep trying to catch you guys saying the racist things right that you're saying right before going on, but no, you always stop right in time.
Yeah, we're pretty good at knowing when we're about to be caught.
Just kidding. Look at this. I've got all these slide screens, and I decided Divas is a good screen wipe for a new subject. So each time I boom, boom. I can use them as a screen wipe for forever. Speaking of which, his episode last week very much told us that we were very stupid for, not us specifically, just anybody who didn't believe the rape claims of that quarterback girl. You just don't understand how rape works. He's worked in this. He knows how this works.
Oh, that's another one of his fields of expertise.
It's another one.
Yeah. I would make a joke, but I feel like he'd sue me.
Yeah. So got schooled on that one because
okay, I gotta do it. As an affluent raper, I know a rape when I see one.
Allegedly.
Just kidding. It's in Minecraft. You're not a raper, Dives. I know that. It's a fucking joke.
Well, did you know that 90% of the time, according to statistics, women aren't lying? You know about that?
I thought it was 98%. I thought it was only 2% of cases where
bigoted.
Yeah, no, that's the
he was the bigot. You're not the bigot, or whatever, the sexist. Yeah, women all the time just do flirty texts a few months later and all that sort of stuff, and get the name wrong of the person that they're accusing when they first initially do it. And
well, E. Jean Carroll did that with Trump, and
that's true. And it was like
she's been proven in a criminal court of law to have been raped.
No, except that one didn't do that. That didn't.
Oh yeah, it didn't.
Yeah.
Crazy. I just keep taking my friends for granted when they make that claim.
I love like the fake. It's just the same thing as like the rape culture claim of like 1 in 3 women on campuses and all that sort of stuff. Like, no, it is not. 90% of women are totally telling the truth. First off, they do try to claim it's like 95. And no, that number is just pulled out of a butt. Like, I don't.
Yeah, no. The number I always heard from feminists was only 2% of rape accusations are false claims.
Yeah.
And I was like, no,
not accurate.
What those where they are able to lie about those numbers? We said it before. Is it's only like 2 to 5% that ever get fully prosecuted. Declared victim, and only 2 to 5% that get declared fully fake, and everything else is in the hazy middle, and nobody gets to say it's 90% accurate. Like, nobody knows. Like, that's the null hypothesis and all that sorts of other stuff. There's some things you can lean one direction or another, but they try to use those statistics to try to claim about. Yeah.
Well, Aiden Paladin came to what, like 30 to 60? Is the actual number of false rape claims?
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah. Divas, we put it on here before. Go watch Aiden Paladin's review of that material. Oh, goodness. No, but he's worked in it. Here it is. The Epsteins. Are we getting this stuff already? Man.
I was actually pretty thrilled to find out that there's no client list we got to worry about. He wasn't blackmailing anybody. He was nobody's asset, and he actually did kill himself. I was worried about it when I heard it because I was pretty sure there was some fishy shit going on behind the scenes. But then I watched Ben Shapiro, and he let me know that just like he did with the Kennedy assassination, that why are you still talking about this? It happened 5 years ago.
It's kind of like a play on a Flip's thing of like when he tells the feminists, like, it turns out it's not rape culture at college campuses. You can go to college campuses and have a 1 in 3 risk of getting raped. Good news. You're supposed to go, oh, good news, but instead you scream and yell at them. It's kind of the opposite. Like, well, are we supposed to go, whoa, good news? There's no list.
If I were able to try, here's the thing. The really sad part about this is he totally could have killed himself. Like, it's totally like
Yeah.
plausible, right? But
The
you got
killing
all
part,
of, yeah, but like, it's very possible that he didn't kill himself too. You know what I mean? It's not like we ever ruled out the possibility that he did kill himself. It's just we knew that there was a ton of people that wanted him dead because he had pictures of a bunch of people.
Very, very powerful people and people from other governments.
I mean, we've got Bill Clinton writing on Lolita Express as president 22 times without Secret Service. That's kind of a big deal. Like, that's something, isn't it? Like,
well, they just
turned out it was nothing.
They just dropped the charges on Prince Andrew today.
It depends on your definition of the word underage.
They dropped the charges on Prince Andrew today. Yeah, and the number one witness, or the woman who said that he raped it, died by not suicide. She died by Epstein. She died by anti-Epstein a few months ago, and I don't know. But now he's able to travel internationally and all that sorts of stuff. I think one of the issues with this whole entire thing is that I've listened to Mike Benz talk a lot that like Epstein goes way back to Iran and Iran-Contra. Like he was a money runner for Khashoggi and stuff like that. Yeah, he has money in foreign governments all over the freaking place and all that sort of stuff. And it goes and 4 decades of it. And it's not just like one guy on the list that's holding this thing up. You know what I mean? It's 40 years of CIA info. You know, that's I don't know. Well, did you guys ever think that you were gonna get a list?
No, I was sure it was destroyed at this point.
I think 50 years maybe.
Yeah, kind of like slowly, like the Kennedy stuff all this time later.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I wasn't ever once expecting it, but I think it's funny because I've heard every single take across the board over on the MAGA side of stuff, and is the list in Excel doc? Ask for us probably. I've heard every single take. Like everybody's like saying, "Oh, they're such a cult" and all that sorts of stuff. I've heard everything across the board from people apologizing to it, from people being pissed. I was just listening to Owen Schreier on Michael Malice. That guy went to prison for Trump, and he's pissed about it. You know what I mean? He's not giving him a pass on it and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. And then Alex Jones is coping, all that sort of stuff. But
oh yeah, he was coping hard. The whole thing with Ben Shapiro on this one was like, look, dude, you could be right, and they could be totally like honest about this is really what happened or something, but we're never gonna believe him. Yeah. And you're acting like we're fucking dumb for not believing him.
Yeah.
He does the same thing with the Kennedy assassination. He'll be like, it's like you're just. First of all, this happened 60 years ago. And okay, Ben Shapiro, if we want to talk about bitching about things that happened several decades ago, it's a glass house for you, buddy. But anyway, it happened 60 years or 40 years, 50, 60 years ago. So it doesn't really mean anything to us. And the Warren report came out, and we know everything we need to know about it. So case closed. Like, yeah, man, there's some weird stuff to it. Maybe the Warren report's totally legit. I don't know. I haven't dug into it a whole lot. But it's fucking weird.
I feel like some of those slop channels, like Tim Pool, since that was released, he's already 3 different times put out videos saying, we hear there's still a list and there's still an investigation and something's still coming out. Oh, and I'm like, I hear that you've got clickable material if you just keep doing that for the next 6 months. You know, I don't think any of that's real or true or whatever, you know, but that thing's over. It's sailed. It's gone. Trump said, why are you talking about this? Why are you talking about this?
Yeah, that was a dumb dodge. Are you guys still talking about Epstein? We've been talking about him for 5 years. Yeah, you just said you were going to dump a bunch of documents on him, and then you didn't. So that's kind of something people are going to want to talk about, buddy.
Flores says, I'm usually with Ben, but he was a little sketch with he never confirmed that he said Epstein was an intelligence agent. That was Acosta, right? The judge. The judge who gave him the light sentence supposedly said something about this comes from on high and above, and he's an intelligence agent or something like that. Yeah. And Ben said, that's never really actually said. Nobody ever actually really said that. Or there's no proof of it, or some sort of thing like
That's
that.
some apologetics. It's like when I hear Brian Hales talk about how, well, actually, there's no proof that Joseph had a sexual relationship with several of his wives because they didn't say, hey, we banged.
Yeah. I don't believe for a second, even if Bongino and Patel did think that it kind of went that way and said, hey, it's done, I feel like they would have delivered it like a little bit differently.
No, that's exactly
Like,
what I was thinking.
Like they would have said, like, guys, I was shocked. Like, I was like, what is this? Where is this? What's this? Where's this? And he's just like, shut up. There's nothing. There's nothing. You know what I mean? And
I know. I was thinking about it because I remember thinking that exact thing. I thought like it'd be hilarious if Bongino gets in there when they were just, or Patel gets in there when they're first putting him in. I was like, wouldn't it be so funny if they're like, dude, look, he really did kill himself. Look at this. It's we understand your doubt, but seriously. And he sees the irrefutable proof, and he's just like, fuck.
yeah.
Fuck, I gotta. Gee, oh,
guys,
God.
I know I did 5 years on a podcast on this turning red face, but holy shit, was I wrong.
I know. I know the cameras were off at a weird time. I know that his suicide detail left early. I know that there was no car. I know like the stars had to align just perfectly, but I swear to God, I've seen the stuff, and he did it. He actually killed himself.
Yeah.
And then I thought about that. I know. I thought about that again just the other day. And I was like, you know what? That's probably how he would react. Like, that's how anyone would react if they spent that much time shitting on the whole Epstein idea, and then all of a sudden, nope, it's actually corporate line.
Scott Adams says he feels like that's a major wink. He said it a couple times. He thinks like he's winking at. They're winking at the camera that like, we're just not going to go into this, guys. We know, but there's nothing we can do here, or nothing we're going to do. But I can see 1,000 different reasons. Mike Benz is probably the best one on giving like all sorts of like reasons why it's just wouldn't have and never would have come out. Not only would it have brought up like all these different names for all this different times, some of those names might have been perfectly innocent people or not, they were just on lists, but then, or in black books or stuff like that, like Zelane's black book that's closed up or something like that. But it also would have triggered investigations to tons of different businesses or places, and is one of the things that he pointed at. And it just would have been opened up like it's an infinite thing of investigations. It would have opened up a ton of stuff against foreign nations and all that sorts of stuff. And I don't know. That's an excuse. You just see like why they would opt away from it.
I'm like, well, I don't know. At least get a few people.
Yeah.
And they got Ghislaine, and that's it.
I mean, I guess they could redact half of it and say we're just going to go after these two guys, Bill Gates and Stephen Hawking. Oh, but I love that hot young ladies.
I can't even get it up.
And Chris Tucker. Like, they should have just gotten this Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker?
Yeah, he's on the list, man.
Like the actor?
Yeah. Like, look it up. Like, so back in the day when, like, the Bill Clinton name came up and stuff like that, there was a leak of, like, 10-ish, 15-ish people. You know what I mean? And, like, Steven Pinker is one of them, Yeah, but Steven Pinker had some sort of money, was receiving some sort of money from him over at MIT, and people think it was just straight on the up and up. And Steven Pinker's even talked about it. But because he went over to MIT and tried to offer a bunch of money, that's where Eric Weinstein met him and talked with him like a couple
You think
times.
maybe Trump just got a hold of the documents, saw the names, is like, oh my God, all of my favorite people are rapers.
Well, if it's not Trump,
the rape case.
If it's not Trump on there, people think it's for sure Trump. For sure, a donor or 10. And why wouldn't like donors like that get into donating if there's a possibility that
I suspect he's not actually on there because fucking hell, they came after him for everything. Like they would have got if they had him dead to rights as an Epstein client.
Yeah,
there's no fucking way the DOJ would have passed up on that in the last 4 years. Unless maybe it implicated a bunch of other people and they were worried of mutually assured destruction.
Tozy basically said there was a gay orgy in Congress. Who cares at this point? That's so funny because that's so true. Like, I wonder like how many of like the left-wing bubble, like did they even like clock that left-wing, like those sex pictures in Congress? Did they even like hear that story? When we say client, do we mean sex stuff? No, the stuff that we've already seen in the past was just traveling, just the same stuff that we have for Bill Clinton.
Yeah, it's Bill Clinton. We know he flew on there 20 times without his Secret Service, which is suspicious, but obviously we don't know for sure what happened.
I think we know Trump flew with him a few times, but not to the island, and just like flying back to New York or something like that. And yes, Chris Tucker is one of the names on there. There's a couple of the random people you wouldn't guess. Dershowitz came up. Did you see that clip of Dershowitz?
Yes.
Yeah, Dershowitz talking about needing to lower the age of consent. Which
I know. What the fuck was the way he said it was so creepy.
I didn't
There's
even
no
expect
reason why a nice 16-year-old girl couldn't have beautiful, loving sex. What?
Yeah, so Dershowitz, he tried to countersue for his name being on all this stuff and all that. Like, he came out hard about it when it first initially came out. He said, I was just getting massages. He's one of the only ones who talked about it, and talked about it in countersuit. He's like, I was just getting massages. Nobody told me it was any sort of sex thing. I never had any sex. And I didn't know the ages. Like, he just came out and said that, like, really hard.
I had no idea she was 13. I had no clue. I did not ask her age. She did not give me a year she was born, and by God, she did not blow me either.
I tried. She's like, you're Dershowitz.
She's like, you don't pay me enough for this.
What the heck? The sharing's different than it used to be. Hold on a second here. Image file, stop screen, video file. You have to have something downloaded to share it now? How do you share the screen anymore?
That's retarded.
Oh, hold on a second. I've already got the share screen. No, it's because I was trying to double share. I am retarded. That's the better way. That's the better guess always. Well, you're retarded, Chris. Like, that's it.
Distancing himself from Dershowitz before we play the clip. You can see.
Hey, I don't want to get sued, man.
Some people are making.
We don't have insurance on this podcast.
Some people watching
ahead,
notice
Ryan.
that Danny is distancing himself from Alan Dershowitz.
End the podcast now. Literally, you're going to be tuning in next week, and it's just going to be called the fucking Dershcast.
You think I'm going to do a formal apology for playing this?
Probably. Dersh is going to get it.
He sues us like he sued Muhammad Hijab.
I know, dude. He's got loves to sue, man.
Well, this is what Alan Dershowitz, Danny's best friend, says about age of consent.
About 20 years ago, I wrote an article in the Los Angeles Times in which I said the age of consent for sex is way too high. It's 18 in many states.
Way
It's
too
18
high.
in California. It's 18 in Florida. The average age where sex is commenced in California and in Florida is 15. So what the law was doing was making millions of people, literally millions of people, criminals every day. So I wrote an article saying the age of consent shouldn't be 18. They shouldn't have a law which so violates the norms of society.
Yeah, that's the best,
People
though.
having sex at 15, 16, 17. All right. Why shouldn't a
Here we go.
17 and a half year old girl be able to consent to having loving, consensual, wonderful sex with an 18-year-old boy? I can't imagine what hit the
You can imagine. That was my favorite part.
Way too high.
Dude, imagine being arguing, though. He goes way too high. You go,
Way too high.
"What's the problem?" You go, you don't think that a teenage girl can have.
Was he just arguing for Romeo and Juliet Lazo, or did he come out with this after he was caught on the Epstein?
I want to be charitable here because I don't know much about Alan Dershowitz, but like the way he fucking said it. First off, yeah, the way too high thing is nuts, but then there's no good reason why a 17-year-old shouldn't be able to have beautiful, loving, sweet, gorgeous, pulsating, supple, moan-inducing, toe-curling, dick-throbbing, love-making.
We should get you a Dershowitz AI. I still need to play that Jordan Peterson AI that Jonathan sent us from last week. Hold on. But
will be substantial.
Did you hear about the this is just one off because he started this podcast talking about it, the huge tariff they put on Brazil for they put 50% tariff on Brazil because of their blocking of Twitter or something like that, or free speech.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
On Brazil, especially against the European Union.
I cannot make Ben's on without asking you the latest with all things Epstein. I don't think you've been on the show since that debacle, and that's an understatement. I'm curious your thoughts on sort of where we stand, the weird, undated, unsigned memo. You had a great hit with Jesse Kelly where you were really getting into the sort of deep CIA ties there. But I'm just curious your kind of overall assessment on where we stand on that fight, that information warfare fight.
Well, I believe quite strongly that Jeffrey Epstein is exactly as Vicky Ward reported. Epstein's sweetheart plea deal. Justice Department official Alex Acosta said that he belonged to intelligence, and the DOJ was told in 2008 to leave him alone. And I believe that there has been a cover-up of that aspect of the Jeffrey Epstein story, which obviously inverts the entire conception of Jeffrey Epstein, if indeed that is substantiated. And tonight I will actually be publishing a detailed presentation video on the exact documents to be sought by the Justice Department so that there is no wiggle room to get out of this issue any longer. The exact documents to make public that I know the Justice Department has, the exact individuals to follow up with, and to keep the American people apprised as to the on-the-record statements those individuals should give to the DOJ. I believe they've been able to effectively get away with not investigating the Epstein's intelligence connections because of the Pandora's box that opens. But I think that given the public outrage over this and the intense pressure that's felt by so many in the admin, combined with the knowledge that this is not going away, that they will at least have to give a little bit. And tonight I'll be publishing a video about what exactly they need to give immediately in order to show that this.
He gives some good suggestions of them to get around this and do a little bit more limited hangout, as you say.
So what would have to be happening to convince you, as you're the new director of the CIA or the FBI or you're the president or whatever? What would have to be going on to give it? They're like, listen, sir, we have this asset to. Well, he runs Child Rape Island over here, where we sell sex slave children. We got to keep it going, though. Sir, I know it's unsavory. I understand that, but you don't understand. And then he gives you the situation. How bad would the situation have to be for you to be like, yeah, fuck, I guess we keep Child Rape Island going on?
Wow.
It'd have to be like, I think at that point, because I'm like, China and Russia both have a shit ton of nukes right now, and they're seriously constantly moments away from launching it. And the only way we're getting info on those launches is by running Child Sex Island and getting information and blackmail out of them. And I think at that point I have to be like, look, we gotta go. We had a good run, but if the world staying alive depends on this island, we're fucked. Let's just blow up. Like,
what if all the countries have one? Like, every country has their child sex island, and they're all like within you can see each one from the other one through binoculars.
Not funny.
Like in the Bermuda Triangle or something, and they probably think we're all prudes for America's all up in arms about Epstein. Like, everybody does it.
Jeez, man. Well, I mean, if you go back and read the Greeks and stuff like that, I've been listening to all these old things about Nero and Caligula and all this stuff. I just get on these YouTube holes of going down stuff. And one of the things the same channel does is what it was like to be a child sex slave in Greece, what it was like to be a child sex slave in ancient Japan. And just goes for 45 minutes of what happened to them. I'm like, Jiminy Christmas, some people have had some worse lives than me. But I'll still bitch when that guy gets in my way at the gym. Anyway, Christopher just sent this. Gavin McInnes talking about it. Let's see what he says.
How about have you seen what Candace Owens is doing with Harvey Weinstein? She's vindicating him.
I just saw that today. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Is that old news?
No, I think she's been going at this for months now. But apparently he got me too. Apparently he's innocent.
I agree. Very unpopular opinion.
I love how fast you were to agree.
This doesn't get me canceled. Harvey Weinstein did nothing wrong.
Nothing.
He said, suck my dick and you can be in a bunch of movies. What would happen if Harvey said that to you? You'd be like, no, thanks. Guess I won't be in a ton of movies. Not on my radar, thanks.
Oh, God.
Marissa Tomei was like, he said, if I don't fuck him, I won't be in movies. Okay, get another trade then.
Yeah,
I feel the same way.
It's like he's holding a gun to
I feel the same way about P. Diddy. He raped me 37 times. Oh, my God, that's horrible. What kind of cage were you in? Well, I would go home and then I would come back for the next rape. What did the police say? Oh, I didn't go to the police. Okay, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. And this is where it gets real controversial. Jeffrey Epstein couldn't care less. Now, if you find a 12-year-old,
Jeffrey Epstein couldn't care less.
I couldn't care less about.
Oh, you couldn't care about Jeffrey Epstein?
Don't give a shit. Now, if you find me a prepubescent girl that was fucked there against her will, by all means, I want to murder everyone involved with an M16 and bury them under the fucking jailhouse. Yeah. But like a voluntary 17-year-old, well, I'd like to beat up her dad. But all these post-pubescent sex party shit, I think it dilutes the actual child trafficking children that are being shipped all over America right now to the tunes of hundreds of thousands.
Well, it was that with the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. They were shipping over 12-year-olds.
Okay, if I looked that up, I couldn't find it. But show me a 12-year-old, and now I'm mad.
Jean-Luc Burnell, the fucking the French
13's okay. Man, we need Dershowitz on this. Everything's getting Foucault here, man. Everybody's talking about that age of consent. It's just the social construct, man. It's just the social construct. It's all getting wiped out because of Epstein. I mean, maybe this is all just a way to get around bringing about that 1977 affidavit by all those postmodernists to lower the age of consent down to infancy.
I think I'm just thinking of that Roger Scruton quote now that you keep bringing up. I feel like I made that argument, but in a lot cruder way, and it was my question to find out if you're retarded or not. And the question is always, why is bestiality wrong? Did I already ask you this?
Yeah, and why is bestiality wrong?
Yeah, why is it wrong?
Because you shouldn't have sex with animals.
Yeah, you got it. You want to know what the retard answer is?
What?
The retard answer? Can you guess?
Who's to say? What's to say? Who's hurting? The animals like it?
No. That's it's why is it wrong?
Oh, why is it wrong? You
gotta explain away why it's wrong in the same way.
It causes harm to the animal.
Consent. The animal can't consent. Like, okay, hang on. Scenario for you, ladies, just face down, ass up, butt naked. Her dog comes in, starts railing her. What's that if not consent? Come on, that's like it's not. It's like, oh yeah, the dog's so hurt, right? He's gonna have to process this trauma with his doggy therapist.
Oh, this brings us all the way back.
That's a Roger Scruton thing. The conservative is the what is it? Being able to articulate the reasons for not having reasons. So when I hear people talk about the age of consent, they're like, well, why do you think that should be that's such an arbitrary number? I'm like, fucking because, okay? That's it.
The Norm Macdonald bit.
Yeah.
The Norm Macdonald one-liner is like, why do dogs always run to the door when the doorbell rings? It's almost never for them.
Oh, girl. Consent because I get those Romeo and Juliet laws.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm pretty sure in Utah, I think a lot of states, like in Utah, there is a thing where, like, if you're 19 and you have sex with a 17-year-old, and there's no question of consent, then that's legal in Utah. Like I think it's like if you're over.
We had that soccer player who got arrested at 21, though, right? And he didn't know she was under.
See, I don't know. That's the thing, though. It's like, because if there's even the mildest question of consent, then it instantly becomes a mega crime.
I thought it was one of our Real Salt Lake players.
I'm not sure. I don't know. Are you thinking of Carl Malone?
No.
Carl Malone.
I could have sworn. RSL player charged with unlawful sex with minor, 2017.
That's right. Who was it?
But he was like 21. Oh, he's 24. Oh, she's 15. But
I think because
that just sounds like the crime.
Like, if you're,
I thought there was one that was like he was 18 and.
Yeah, no.
And oh no, she was like 17 and he was 21 or something like that.
I think in Utah, like if you're if the underage person is 16 or 17 and the other person is like within 10 years, that's like okay. That's Dershowitz. They call that the Dershowitz standard.
The Dersh.
The Dersh. I watched Pee-wee as himself this week. Did you watch that, Flip? You were watching
I did.
That was a bit interesting as well. It's funny because we're talking about lists and it's like all these different things tie in together. It's like the subject at hand in the world right now is just a kitty boinking, I guess.
Yeah.
But let's see here. I thought I had it somewhere. Look at all this crap I got. I already passed it. I did. The Pee-wee as himself, it's on. I passed it. There it is. It's on HBO, and it's 2 hours of Pee-wee or Paul Rubens talking about his history back through making the Pee-wee. What was it? Where they initially started?
The
Second
Groundlings?
City groundling stuff. And it's kind of funny, but if you stop and think about it, I'm rethinking a lot of things right now. How is Pee-wee kind of not just
creepy?
Pedo imagery? You know what I mean? Like, is he not a like the whole thing started as an overly innocent boy, and people kind of come around him and talk to adult around him in the groundlings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it turned into a kid show. Well, why a kid show? It's like, wait a minute, was this kind of queer story hour back at the time or something? I love Pee Wee's Playhouse. I loved the show when I was a kid. I used to watch it all the time. And years later, when I finally watched Pee Wee's Big Adventure as an adult, I really did notice that like all the sex things had gone way over my head when I was a kid. I didn't know, like I did not pick up on them at all. And Pee Wee says in this thing, he says, we were purposely making the sex jokes over their head. And then if the kid did know the sex joke, I knew you knew something. I knew you found that out from your parents or from somebody else, you know.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And I was
What
like,
was his big scandal? Didn't he get like busted for jerking off in front of people or something?
well, it's right there on the screen right there. But no, he had two big scandals. And that's what's kind of interesting about this thing, because he's getting interviewed directly.
There is such thing as a misdemeanor possession of child porn.
Well, that's where it gets weird. That's why I'll give spoilers. You guys should watch it anyway, because it's just kind of interesting. And I always thought it was interesting.
I don't think he had child porn.
I think it's a little bit like the Michael Jackson thing.
Yeah.
Because he was a collector of a bunch of different stuff. And strangely enough, he was friends with that Ferris Bueller's principal, Jeffrey Jones, who was also in what was that movie of the
Avenging Angel?
The Western. Oh yeah, he was in that, wasn't he? And he was in Deadwood, and he's really good. I mean, everybody's good in Deadwood, but he got arrested. How did you say? You said it the other time, Flip. He was taking the pictures himself.
He took pictures of teenage boys wearing nothing but a cowboy hat or something like that, or a teenage boy wearing nothing but a cowboy hat. Although, like, again, he says, like, no, it wasn't a sex thing. It was an art thing. Although that's kind of like, you're in the wrong century and country if that's art. But because, you know, I know he's got his defenders. I know that. I know there's people who say, like, no, he wasn't a pedophile.
It's like, hold on a second. People do it with babies too every time. And
so I just recently watched the Beetlejuice 2, and he was in Beetlejuice 1. He was the girl's dad in Beetlejuice 1, and they wrote him out of Beetlejuice 2, but he's in there. He just is in the afterlife already, and his head's blown off. That almost kind of like seems like just winking at knowing like we can't have him in here. You know what I mean? But so
I met him when I was a teenage boy. I told that story before.
Oh, that's right. And you said he didn't take pictures of you.
Yeah,
Did you have that Mr. Garrison thing of like, why didn't you take pictures of me?
And when I found out later that he was a creep, I'm like, oh, I guess I wasn't an attractive enough teenage boy.
His head's blown off. Yeah, in Beetlejuice, some of the characters go to the underworld. And in Beetlejuice in the underworld, you have you still have your injury from when you died. And he had somehow died. He had not blown off. He had his head bitten off by a shark. And so in the underworld, he's just walking around with his head off.
It's a clever way to write him off.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, he and Pee Wee were friends. And this movie gets into how Pee Wee was a major collector. And he collected all sorts of stuff. And he had like all sorts of old magazines and all sorts of things. And some of them they kind of pulled out. But this is kind of one of the problems is we don't get to review the material. And it's just like the Pam Bondi stuff. I had 10,000 videos of child porn. It's child porn. And you're like, well, okay, I don't want to review them, but I can't picture 10,000 of them being Jeffrey. There had to have been somebody else in one of those, right? Like somebody you could identify. We can't watch them. It's child porn. In the case of both Pee Wee and Michael Jackson, you can find the book that supposedly he had the pedo stuff for. It's a coffee table book, and you can buy it. Like, well, I think they've taken it off now, but you could buy it on Amazon, just even right up after that HBO documentary. But it is a weird book. It's just called like pictures. It's like boys, and it's like just a bunch of artful pictures of boys running around, some of them naked on a beach. You know, not that everyone's naked boys on the beach. Just in the book, there's some of them are naked on the beach. That's the one book. That's the one thing that they found on Michael Jackson. So you can look at the thing that supposedly was his child porn. And Michael Jackson never even went to court about it. It got thrown out in grand jury. Pee Wee stuff, you don't get to really see it. If you look at this, it says 25 magazines and one film. In the TV show, they kind of try to show maybe what it was or wasn't and that sorts of stuff. But one of the weird things about this whole thing is that he decides to do this interview, and it's one of the real first times in his entire life he's interviewing as Paul Rubens, telling about his whole mind frame behind doing the. How do you land on the concept of Pee Wee Herman? You know, like how does that even happen if it's not just kind of like part of?
You just playing with your nephews and you do a funny laugh. You go ha 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 ha, and then they like it, and then you just go from there, I guess.
I guess one of the jokes he did in Groundlings time, when it was like HBO and more adult oriented, is that like Pee Wee puts a mirror on his shoe, you know, and walks up to a lady in a girl. Yeah. But well, the joke is that like he walks up to a girl with the mirror on the shoe, and the girl sees the mirror on the shoe and goes, "Ha ha! I'm not wearing underwear."
And then he goes, "Ew."
Well, no, but like but then he's disappointed because like, and the idea is that like he's a kid, he doesn't understand that the point is to.
Yeah, he wanted to see the underwear.
He wanted to see the underwear, like you know.
See, the vibe I always got from Pee Wee is it did not feel like a kid's show to me. I was very uninterested in it when I was a little kid because it looks weird. Even like the furniture, all this stuff, the imagery, it looks freaky.
It goes into detail about it. All those people were very specifically chosen high artists. He picked artists who had different imagery, and his cartoons. Like if you go and watch them, they're pretty amazing because they kind of flow in and out of going to like different clips of cartoons and different clips of claymation. The Wallace and Gromit guy started doing claymation on it with this little thing called Penny, and Penny's this little feminist. Like and you're listening to it and like I didn't realize what she was saying was feminist stuff. And the one that they put on the show is her arguing about kids should have the same rights as adults.
Oh God.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there like, what the like this stuff's like all kind of, and maybe it just hits different now after all these years of knowing all this different stuff.
Which rights we talking about, Penny?
Yeah. And then there's like scenes where he's like, "Oh, I love fruit." And one of the Pee Wee's jokes is, "Well, then why don't you marry?" And he goes, "Okay, I'm going to marry a fruit." You know, and you're just like, maybe they're hinting at some stuff. I mean, like a lot of it is like that one channel we always goof on, the Avila kid who has the "Is it gay?" Like Pee Wee stuff was obviously coded gay, like always. And but then they have all that sorts of stuff, like the Penny the feminist girl done in the Wallace and Gromit claymation style, talking about feminism and kids should have the same rights as adults. And you watch all that sorts of stuff, and Pee Wee states like, this is like what's different about this in Storytime. He states, and because you can say it all this time later, that they were trying to send messages to the kids, and some of it was just to be artistic or whatever, but some of it was like also to become activistic or to, you know, do whatever sorts of stuff like that. But if you watch the old things, like he employed such incredible artists and such incredible people, and the show just flows in like such a hypnotic way. It's almost kind of like Teletubbies. Have you ever been hypnotized by Teletubbies?
Oh God, I hated that so much.
Pee Wee's has a feel like that. Pee Wee's Playhouse has a feel like that.
Does it? No
yeah,
way.
Like you watch the intro, just watch like the intro claymation, and it will have like the same kind of woo woo woo, and he bounces around. Like the movies are far more linear, and people are interacting. The Pee Wee's Playhouse is surreal.
Okay, but the Teletubbies is circular and painfully dumb. I think maybe they were for different age groups because I was probably like
college kids and MTV kids were watching Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Yeah, okay. I was probably like 8 when Teletubbies came out, and I felt too old for it. I was like, dude, this is so fucking dumb.
Yeah, it's dumb, but like it has something hypnotic about it.
No, you're right. It does have that like creepy sort of.
It's a creepy hypnotism.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And Pee Wee's has that. Like it has that. Like if you watch like the intro scene, I probably can't play it because it's on HBO right now, and but it has that, like the same way Teletubbies feels. The intro scene of that has this.
Well, and Teletubbies is definitely hypnotic because they would always loop things. Like they'd be like, they'd watch the video, they'd zoom in on one of their chests, and they had like a screen on it, and it would turn on a video, and it'd be some like stupid ass instructional video on like, this is how we like can peas in a factory or something. And it'd be like a 4-minute video, and then it get to the end, and the Teletubbies they'd go again, and they watch the same thing again. And I was like, man, I know this is for kids younger than me, but I feel like I'd be pissed off.
I only ever watched a little bit of it, but I remember just like feeling like it catching my eyes, doing like a.
No, I remember the first time I ever saw it. Like I was up really late, and it was like 4 or 5 in the morning on, like, and just tuning into what's that called, public television, and I just like you say, I got hypnotized by it. I ended up watching 2 episodes of it, just going, "What the fuck is this?"
I would love to show the intro to Pee-wee's Playhouse right now, but if I showed it to you, you would feel it. Like look it up, like right now on YouTube. The intro, the claymation intro, it's got a woozy feel to it, and it bounces in and out, and it goes to cartoons, and it goes to all sorts of different arts and side things. It's not linear like Pee-wee's Big Adventure or Big Top Pee-wee, which they showed that scene in Big Top Pee-wee where, I mean, I guess one of the reasons we got away with it, we thought he was straight back then. He kisses a girl for like 4.5 minutes in Big Top Pee-wee. Just one long kiss scene. It's the weirdest thing in the world. There was all sorts of weird subversion going on with this, and it was MTV moving into kids show stuff. And this might have been like the first drag story out type stuff.
Yeah, but these claymation animals look intentionally terrifying.
Do you hear the music of it too? It's got like a woozy woo feel. It.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like if I'm listening to Banjo Kazooie, but I'm really high.
Yeah, and the whole thing's like that. Like it really goes like bouncing from scene to scene. Then Pee-wee jumps in, go to my thing, and then jumps over like, my toys. And then it's the toys are suddenly like a claymation toy thing. And
it's like everything's tuned just a tiny bit flat and played with a slide.
Yeah, it's weird. And the ending's like that too. He goes flying off on a bike, and
the Sphinx is winking at me.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway.
Oh god, this reminds me. Did you ever watch Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared?
Oh yeah, it feels like that. It totally feels like that. Yeah. And the side shows, because it's not just Pee-wee in the Playhouse. He bounces around and says, let's look at this, let's look at this, let's look at this. And it cuts to all sorts of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared type scenes. And 5 seasons of it. You know what I mean? It must have been intensive, like for all the art that's in it, you know.
I was worried I had it on 1.5 speed when I was watching it. I was like, nope.
It's got a weird feel to it.
Creepy.
And at that time frame, they covered it in the documentary. Like that took them like 6 months just to make the intro.
Really?
Oh yeah. But anyway, this whole thing goes through. It's Pee-wee finally revealing himself because he never really wanted to talk about himself, and now he's finally talking about himself. And this is just a little bit before he died. He didn't tell anybody that he had cancer. And as it goes on, and it gets into some of his more seedy stuff, he starts being uncooperative. And he starts not kind of refusing to answer, and he starts not showing up, or he starts giving shit to the director and all this sorts of stuff. And as it goes kind of into some of these stories, where he says he wants to control the narrative, or he wants to talk about it and all that sorts of stuff. So he, in like 91 or 92, right after Pee-wee's Playhouse, which I always thought he lost Pee-wee's Playhouse for it, but no, Pee-wee's Playhouse had ended. He got caught jerking off in the porn theater. I never heard it because like I didn't really know Pee-wee was gay until like 10 years ago. It was. I thought he was straight until like 2015.
So I heard that he was jerking off in a porn theater, and I remember as like a teenager, I hear that, and I was like, "Wait, they really don't expect you to do that?" Like I kind of just assumed, like a porn theater, everyone. I mean, I was like, "Yeah."
And also, he claims and holds by he was never actually doing it. They just sought an opportunity to arrest him. He claims that was always the case.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like if I'm in a porn theater. Am I going to go to the authorities really? Like, and I look over and then, oh, can you believe that man is being so uncouth in this porn theater?
Yeah.
I shall talk to manager.
I still don't even know. Was it gay porn? Like it was never released all the way back then that it was gay porn. And that would have been kind of a thing.
Yeah, that'd been like the cop puts it in the police report.
Yeah.
They're watching Fisting Fireman 9.
Ryan Wimmer says, I don't care what anyone says Pee-wee's Big Adventure was classic. It was. And the old show was classic, but they chose the moments of subversive messaging themselves. And Pee-wee's there saying, yeah, we did it. Here's the subversive messaging. Like this documentary goes into that. you know. And it's kind of like, well, okay, but I mean, everything has a little bit of subversive messaging. You see it like all of these different places have been like little pieces of places to slip in propaganda of people since forever. But the most Big Top Pee Wee sucks ass. And then he released one in like 2018-19 that was pretty good. It was pretty back to true form, but that one definitely hints more at some sort of gay stuff going on. But it was definitely for adults by then.
Did he whip out his wiener or something?
No, he just has like this crazy man crush on like a big fireman type guy. Fireman 9, Fireman Fisters 9. But anyway, so then it gets to the stuff about this thing, and because he knew or was friends or somebody mentioned him in line with that Jeffrey Jones guy, supposedly they came and raided his, and they had shown that he had like a major collectibles area, and he did have a major collectibles area. He might have had anything on Earth in there. And they went and raided it and found these things, but you'd have to review the things to see if and I don't want to review these things or the Pam Bondi tapes, but who should review these things? Because she says those things shouldn't see the light of day. It's child porn. Yes, but if you have 10,000 of them and people have been talking about this being a blackmail ring, shouldn't we not be able to get some identified people inside of those?
I know, like that's things that we gotta kind of find out. There's police departments where they do that, and it's sad, and I'm sure it kills the guys that have to. Hopefully, it kills them. It's better than the alternative, but like, I don't know. Maybe we'll see some clients on there.
Yeah, it's really weird. Listless is King of the Hill trailer's out, and that's the second one I was gonna get into. I mean, I've been watching old King of the Hill to get ready for this King of the Hill to come out. And I'm gonna be thinking the old King of the Hill a little bit too, in some ways. Not in any way of like getting like, I'm not getting so political because it's well written. This is one of the things we've always said is just make it well written and we'll deal with some of your propaganda. God damn it! And Pee Wee and King of the Hill did it better. But show me an episode of King of the Hill that is not about old white guy needs to learn the fucking lesson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's not one episode that isn't that. You know what I mean?
And I remember when it was on that people complained that it put conservatives in a good light.
Really?
Yeah, I remember that.
All it ever is that Hank needs to learn and grow up and get into the world because he's stuck in the past.
Well, I remember that happening on. So when I was in high school, Family Guy was at its peak, and there was huge controversy around an episode that starred Rush Limbaugh. Did you ever see that?
I don't know.
It's actually a pretty interesting episode. I'm not a huge Family Guy.
I did see that episode. I remember it now. Yeah.
But it's like Brian's a dog, and he's like very staunch Democrat, and he meets Rush Limbaugh and becomes really Republican for a little bit, and like smokes cigars with Rush Limbaugh. And by the end, Rush tells him, like, Brian, look, this isn't who you are. You're a liberal. You're not like me. But we need each other, you and me. You know, it's sort of this like, yeah, we're always going to be at odds on this thing, but maybe a functioning society needs both of us. And then Rush Limbaugh runs off, jumps into the air, and turns into an eagle and flies away.
That's pretty good.
I was like, man, that's. I remember Seth MacFarlane got shit for that, and I was like, are you serious? Like the constant lip service he pays to lefties. And he finally is like, you know what? Rush Limbaugh isn't Satan.
Yeah.
Whoa!
That's too much for them.
Toasty says, no, there's plenty of the old white guy has a point. Don't rule out the old white people. Yeah, there's enough of a little like back and forth. But every single episode does have some moment where it's to show that Hank isn't with the times and he's shocked by the current new thing. And how's that going to go in the new episodes type stuff? I don't think you can be true to canon and try to make Bobby suddenly gay. Like, I know there's also some stuff about him that's coded gay, but he's too in love with that
Connie.
With Connie,
yeah.
So they better not try that. But
well, I got the first episode a little bit spoiled for me. Do you want to hear it or not?
Yeah.
I think he's still dating Connie in this.
Oh, good. Is he trying to be a comedian? I know he's like a cook or something like that.
I don't know if he's trying to be a comedian, but I know he is.
Yeah, Bobby is voiced by a woman, Pam. What's her name? The lady that Louis C.K. loved and had on all his episodes before he got canceled. Louis C.K. has such a he has it so hard out for that woman, and you can tell because he cast her and everything. And she
Really?
doesn't. Yeah, she's the one who was in Lucky Louie and in the Louie episodes. She's the voice of Bobby. Like, and he puts her in everything, and you know he's in love with her. You just know he actually really is.
Pamela Adlon.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting, but I'm only like 4 seasons into it. It's a little bit slow watching that one, but
I've watched, I don't know, probably like 10 seasons of it, but it's never been consecutive. So
I watched Matilda the musical. I tried to look up to see if Roald Dahl was a pedo. I know he was part of the CIA, but
so yes,
no info that Roald Dahl was a pedo, except for he's probably on pre-Epstein lists. No, anybody involved in the CIA now, I'm just going to assume that they're on the list until they release it. I think that should be our agreement with government. Well, you're all on the list until you release it. So.
Yeah. Hey, so speaking of, I haven't heard this talked about very much. Did you hear about the brave American upon whose shoulders the entire war between Ukraine and Russia rests?
No.
There's one American right now that could turn the tide of the war and actually bring about peace. And it's Candace Owens.
Oh.
Did she say that, or did somebody else?
She said it basically. She said she got a surprise. So here's what happened. Trump gets, and this is according to Candace, so I think she's just fucking lying. But I don't know, maybe. Trump is talking to Putin about negotiations. Putin says, he'll negotiate for peace, but we need to do this thing with Macron. We need this from France. And so he calls these several different nations that need to all cooperate, and Macron tells him, like, yes, we will negotiate, but first you have to get him to stop, Candace Owens, to stop talking shit on my wife. And so Candace Owens just sitting there doing her thing, gets a call from the president. And he tells her, listen, Candace, I'm trying to get things worked out. You're going to have to stop talking shit on Macron, although we know she's a man. I know she's a man. First time I saw her, I walked in there and I said, well, that's definitely a man right there. But we got to keep quiet about it. We don't want those millions to die. So if she would just shut up about Brigitte Macron, then all those soldiers would stop dying.
Toasty's asking about Sweeney Todd. I have watched Sweeney Todd multiple times and like it, and I like the music of it. But if you want real deal Sweeney Todd, listen to the Broadway version of it with Angela Lansbury singing it. You know, the lady who plays the teapot, because that's real. And then there's this guy who sings Sweeney Todd, and it's this big baritone voice. And you go, how did you not? Johnny Depp, I don't have any problems with. I like Johnny Depp, but singing and all that sorts of stuff. When you hear a real Broadway baritone voice singing that song, like, come now, my friend, he's gonna go cut the guy's throat. Like, you got to hear it that way. It's so good.
Oh, that's like when they redid Les Mis and cost crap.
Yeah, and you got
Russell Crowe singing. Your name is John Valjean. Oh God, you sound terrible.
But also the crazy lady when Angela Lansbury is singing it, like she's killer on that. Like, you just imagine that part of her singing about the pies, the meat pies, none of meat pies. You know, it's Angela Lansbury just kills it. But that one's bad. The one of the girls wasn't a very good singer, but Anne Hathaway could sing pretty good.
Did you see that JoJo Siwa song?
Of course.
Okay,
I'm
I figured.
I'm always hot on the seat for new JoJo. No, I have not.
What is it? I gotta find it. It was a cover of some song, and her voice sounds like it's a distortion pedal, like running through it. I don't know.
Christopher, is that the name of the? Is George Hearn who's the big baritone in Sweeney Todd, right? Like, gotta listen to the baritone guy sing Sweeney Todd. It's so good. It's so good.
All right, here. It's Betty Davis eyes. She's gonna cover that. I don't even know who the fuck JoJo Siwa is. I see her name pop up, and that's
she was a celebrity. She got popular on like a reality show when she was like 12, and then turned that into like a reality show with her mother, like the moms, you know, those like stage mom shows. And then she turned that into actually kind of having a bit of a pop career. Then she kind of got anti-famous for just being a terrible dancer. So being like a really bad dancer that actually projected her even further. People would like spread her music videos around and all that stuff. Then she came out as a lesbian, and that further projected her career. And she went around dressed up kind of like Lady Gaga, and everybody's like, "Oh wow!" And then she went on Big Brother. And on Big Brother, Mickey Rourke told her that he would like screw her straight or something like that. And she said, and then she went straight with one of the dudes, and she went straight announcing it at the beginning of Pride Month with another guy on the show right after Mickey Rourke said that. But I don't know much about Jojo Siwa.
Jesus Christ. Well, I sent you a TikTok of her song in that group chat. It's good shit.
Yeah, I've seen that Len Carew sing the original Sweetie too. I especially love George Herman, but yeah, Len was better too. It's a travesty that I don't really have major criticism for Johnny Depp's singing, and like it's fine, and it's obviously well produced for a movie. But that thing's got to be the big baritone of like a depressed big guy. Like it just when you see it that way, it's like, oh, how's the movie not got that? This feels like it all ties into Tim Burton too, because all this Pee-wee stuff and Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and now we're talking Sweeney Todd, and now we're talking Matilda the musical, Roald Dahl, and all the Roald Dahl stuff with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I guess Johnny Depp kind of played a weird pedo-y guy. He turned Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to a weird pedo-y guy, or I guess Michael Jackson. But I repeat myself. Anyway, Matilda the musical. Did you see the Matilda in the 90s?
Yeah.
Did you know that's Ben Shapiro's cousin?
No.
The Matilda, the little girl in the 90s, Ben Shapiro's cousin, and she has denounced him and won't talk to him or his family.
Well, she was in Hollywood, so I was assuming she was Jewish. You get it?
Yeah. I thought that was a really good one. It's got Danny DeVito in it and stuff, and she kind of plays this like sweet little thing who finds out she's discovered. Well, no, this one's basically born a feminist, ready to kick ass, and but. The music in it is done by Tim Minchin. They made the musical. Like, do you know Tim Minchin?
Yeah.
Tim Minchin's like the big famous kind of now atheist singer and stuff. And actually, if you listen to him, he kind of came out. He's a little bit based. Like he came out against cancel culture. He came out against like protesters for Gaza and stuff. He's like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" type stuff, which was kind of risky for him. But like I noticed, like this one had all these. Well, he just kind of has a consistent point about like, that religion sucks, you know what I mean? And being like a hard atheist, sometimes they hold on principles. Although, did you see that Sam Harris came out today saying that he's decided he's a full-on Zionist?
Oh, yeah, I saw something about
Well, that's not even a revelation, but I mean, it's just kind of that he actually
he's just
said
admitting
it.
it. Yeah. Ow, come on. My dog's chewing on my sock. Anyway, this Matilda musical, like it's got all the lyrics all the way through. It's like you got to be an activist and you got to stand up to what's bad for you and you got to do this and that. And I saw this like, we're told we have to do what we're told, but surely sometimes you have to be a little bit naughty. That's the hook of the whole show. You got to be all like little girls dancing around saying that. Oh my goodness! So I feel like the aging process is me slowly becoming Hank Hill. Like the more I find myself just watching things that before I just would have been like me, then I'm going, whoa. Yeah, but everything's like subversion. Like there's subversion all through Pee-wee. This is obviously like they're talking about stuff. Even though I love Tim Minchin and all that stuff, I didn't like the songs in this very much. You want to know why? Besides that hook, I can't sing a damn one of them. And I kind of felt like you kind of got to do that with musicals, don't you? Like you should be able to hum at least two of them the next day, don't you think? Way too over lyric, and Tim Minchin's kind of always over lyric. Yeah, I recently saw a video of Depp on that. My dog is chewing on my sock. He's going to steal it from me. What's that?
Did you see what Devin Tracy put out today?
No, what's that?
His dad in the 70s
worked for the
Muppets, and he wrote 4 songs that he didn't write them for the Muppets. He made a record that he gave to a friend that the friend gave to Jim Henson saying, "You might like this." And Jim asked him to use 4 of his songs.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. He talked about that for years, so I just hadn't seen him release it.
Oh, yeah. No, they played today. He released it and played the songs and everything.
You know, his dad is the #1 archiver of African music.
Was his grandpa?
His grandpa, and all the music they used for like the Wakanda, like Oscar-winning stuff, they got that from his grandpa. Atheism is Unstoppable, Devin Tracy, kind of a famous family. And you can see his face when the Oda verdict is read. He's sitting there in the courtroom. Atheism is Unstoppable.
Next to Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah, him and Richard Dreyfuss sitting there. Anyway, I just got more subversion right here too. Tim Pool saw this and said it isn't woke, so you can guarantee that it is not. Just kidding. Tim Pool's like such a normie when it comes to movies. He's about like a Shapiro when he watches it. I'm like, it's pretty good. Superman. Like, he didn't notice all the crap in there. The Nerdotic guys hated it. They all said that it's not woke. Just crappy. Crappy because they can't make Superman, which you could call a little bit ideological.
Well, okay. The woke part is getting rid of the American way.
Yeah. And well, they said outside of the theaters, like this is about immigrants and stuff like that. But the other part of it is too that people are always kind of quick to not call stuff woke, but then some people are over the top at calling stuff woke too. But at the same time, the simple fact, I guess they say every male in this movie cries at some point or another. Superman's crying at some point or another. Lex Luthor's crying. I'm telling you, there's a whole thread. I had to study in grad school. This whole thread is called masculinity in crisis. And you know, well, the way we subvert the rules is we got to show that all these masculinities are in crisis. When I hear these guys describe that Superman just kind of gets beaten around the world and he's kind of like an emotional boob and all that stuff, like I guarantee you, there's ideology in that of making it.
But adoptees aren't immigrants. Like he's been here since he was a baby. He knows.
And that just got ruled in the Supreme Court, right? They just barely ruled it.
Yeah, but like he was adopted by people, so they're like my brother's wife is from Haiti originally, but she was adopted, so she's not.
So that doesn't count.
She's an American.
So but if she was born there, she doesn't have to do paperwork to?
I'm sure the parents had to do some paperwork to naturalize, but like she's, but this is like even a baby. He lands on the space, like
he fell from the sky.
He's from Kansas. Like he's a different species, but he's growing up in Kansas. You can't really call him an immigrant. He's not a fish out of water because he has a different culture. He has the exact same culture, and it's because of his culture, his American culture, his suburb or not suburb, like farm American culture brought to the city that he can be as virtuous as he is. That's the whole point.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna watch it because I tend to like James Gunn stuff, but it sounds like it's kind of like that Thor: Love and Thunder stuff where they kind of start getting too goofy with stuff.
There's no way it's that bad.
It sounds goofy. I mean, it sounds pretty goofy, but I don't know. I'll check it out, but there's still just like little bits of subversion everywhere, and I stand by my thing of like, imagine Mormons running all this stuff. Like, I guarantee you, if Mormons were running Hollywood, this movie would come out, and all that was in it was just a little bit of Jeffrey R. Holland's face and a little bit of I don't know, some sacrament passed around and some green jelly and all that sort of stuff. And Tim Pool goes, "It's nice. It's not Mormon. It's not Mormon." Like, yeah, but did you see that they're still like, it's not Mormon, you know?
I know.
And that sort of stuff. That doesn't look like Superman to me in the upper right. That looks like Shazam, maybe. Yeah, I guess somebody else was putting that there. That does look like the wrong person, but same universe though, right? People, but maybe Shazam is getting rid of comics. That you see that actor who played Shazam guy like came out all MAGA, and I don't know.
Oh yeah, he's been doing that for a while.
And they said in the last season of The Boys that Homelander 100%. It will be a representation of Trump. So I'm glad they spelled that out for us.
I was glad they told us because it was really fucking subtle.
Anyway, I want to get to Britney stuff, but we got to get back over here to, I mean, we played it before, but the queer theory. Ow! My dog's biting. Queer theory Jeopardy. The whole thing, but like there's a little part at the end because we played this all before, but we'll just get through the Foucault part and then also like the little part at the end that I showed you guys, which is a little extra.
Okay, so actually, it seems you're acting like this is a spurious connection. So we're going to play Jeopardy. We're going to play queer theory. We're going to play queer theory pedophilia Jeopardy.
Are y'all motherfuckers ready for some queer theory pedophilia Jeopardy? I hope you're ready because this is the good part. I hope you haven't zoned out on me. I hope you haven't tuned out because it's about to get good.
Okay, answer. Commonly called the godfather of queer theory.
Who is Foucault?
Who is Foucault? Okay, 100 points. Foucault. Another way to ask this is who argued, no, I guess the answer would be, argued for the eradication of age of consent laws as in down to infants.
Who is Foucault?
Thank you.
Michael Foucault, born 1926,
Michael.
1984.
Mikey.
Foucault's writing, particularly The History of Sexuality, have also been very influential in feminist philosophy and queer theory, particularly the work of the.
So this guy, this video is pretty good by iHypocrite. It was a re-upload, but I mean, we just showed the queer Jeopardy earlier, but it gets into the first part of the video, and one of the things that the queer activists were here blocking from him talking. I don't even know like why they were like so hard out for him, but he was there as some sort of like Greenpeace guy. He's like a big theorist on killing the world or some sort of
He's been shitting on anarchists.
He's an environmental anarchist. So
Yeah,
he is an anarchist.
Well, he's an anarchist and says that you got to worry about some other forms of anarchy.
Criticizing anarchists, and it was a bunch of anarchists who were there trying to disrupt.
Mm-hmm. And they were trying to disrupt and say that he was a bigot for pointing this stuff out. And so he goes into this detail of, all this underage stuff. It's not just a one-off. It's not just things they did. Like, because we're talking about all those sorts of people. I know we were bringing this stuff up with Kobe and our film last week. And you said, Jared, that Kobe felt like we were talking about people that weren't him. And that's true. Like, it wasn't about him. What we were talking about is like they refer to academia as the place where you go to have ideas tested by fire and trial and all that sorts of stuff. And you go, no, it is not. That is not my experience with academia. My experience was very ideological in the art school. And you get fed stuff by people like these who actually have their arguments for some shady things. Although usually they were just arguing for, what we'll point to at the end. But it's a little bit like the Dershowitz thing. It's like, hey, we'll point it out at the end.
Major feminist scholar Judith Butler, due to his theories regarding the genealogy of maleness and femaleness, power, sexuality, and bodies. Judith Butler published a novel in 1990 titled Gender Trouble, Feminism and the Subversion of Identity.
You were just having a debate about that today, right?
Oh, yeah. I got into it about trannies. It was just that it was weird. We're in the area where we can't have our phones, but there's nothing to do. And so the normie liberal guy leans over to the lesbian chick, and then I'm the only other one in the room, and he's like, hey, so this is a little personal and weird question, but like, how deep are you in the whole LGBT community? And she's like, kinda, I guess. I don't know. My wife's bigger into it than I am. And he starts asking her about like the trans shit. He's like, would you ever like date a trans woman? And she's like, no, I wouldn't. And it's funny because she got onto me later for not saying that a trans woman is a woman. She was like, clearly, like, because I was saying, well, none of us actually think that a trans woman is a woman. None of us do. You won't date her. If you thought she was a woman, you would date her, but you don't. And so it's just funny she can kind of compartmentalize that. But it was pretty great. It was a good time. I asked them, we got in a discussion about gender, and I asked them what gender was, and they both said immediately, a social construct. And then I said, yeah, but define it. What is the definition of gender? And then they both looked at me like I was a fucking moron, and then immediately said again, a social construct. I was like, that's not a definition, that's a category. All right? That's like, if you asked me what a table was and I told you a physical construct, you'd be confused as hell. Right? And
yeah, it's kind of like saying that's a word. Like what is gender? It's a word.
I know. That's,
gender. That's a word.
You are correct. It is a word, but that doesn't narrow down the definition of this specific word at all. And then they started trying to describe it to me, and I did the same thing I always do in these arguments. I was like, well, okay, what you're doing right now is, first off, you're describing, like, it sounds like what you're saying is personality. And it was hilarious because you got the lesbian who knows a little bit about this and the normie liberal who knows nothing about this. And at the exact same time, he says yes while she says no. And that was pretty funny.
But that's it. That's exactly what I always say. It was like, I used to tell this to Marty because we used to talk about this stuff with Marty. And she'd say, would they say it? And you say, the person who translates it to liberalese to cover for the people would say one thing completely different than what the actual activists say, which is, it's like a weird Mott and Bailey, but it's like an unintentional Mott and Bailey. Like the person doesn't know they're running cover for the Bailey, you know what I mean? And it
was hilarious because I was trying to explain to them what self-ID was. The lesbian kind of knew what it was. The other guy had no clue. And because I was explaining to them, because they eventually spat out that gender is basically a combination of gender roles and gender presentation. Still not a definition, but whatever. And so I was like, okay, then let's say I look exactly like I do. Well, no, I don't look exactly. Let's say I am a male, like I am, and I do all of the gender presentation of that's typically a woman, and I do all of the gender roles that are typically traditionally a woman. Am I a man or a woman? They said a woman. It's like, what if I tell you that I'm a man? And they're like, well, then you're a man. I was like, then gender doesn't mean anything, or it's at least not anywhere near connected to gender roles and gender presentation. If I can run opposite to what I am and then say that I'm the opposite still, God, it's just retarded.
Well, it ends up being like Wilfred Riley ran this. He's the writer of the book "Lies My Liberal Teacher Told Me," but he black person, so he's allowed to talk about stuff. He runs this little poll. Says, is a male rapist who sincerely identifies as a female a woman or a man? And this got a lot more votes later, and it was still up about that percentages. So it's a little bit like Schrodinger's transgender there. But speaking of which, remember Schrodinger? Remember Schrodinger?
I think he told us
about Schrodinger's a pedophile. Schrodinger's a pedophile.
Yep.
I love how anybody can talk about turns out to be a pedophile. Yeah, Schrodinger, but that doesn't take away from his that would be a fallacy. To take away from his.
Imagine Trump's heart just sinking as he's reading through the Epstein list. He's like, "Oh my God, not James Cameron! I love Titanic." Oh no, Steven Spielberg. Oh, Paula Deen. No. I'm nuts. God damn it. I can't release this. This can't see the light of day. Nobody can know that Don Rickles went to
Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart. No. Jack Lemmon. They're all.
Oh wait, no, that said Jimmy Carter. Yeah, fuck that guy. Jimmy Kimmel. Yes, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, Jimmy
a lot of Jimmys in here.
It was kind of weird the way he changed, but it had to have been for something. Here it is. Schrodinger's pedophilia. The cat is out of the bag. Box. Oh, zing-a-ling. That's over on Forbes there. But I remember because we were listening to that episode. They brought up Schrodinger's, and they also brought up Arthur C. Clarke. And guess what about Arthur C. Clarke? He hung out.
I don't remember if I asked you this last time we talked about Schrodinger. Tell me this. Give this to me straight. Is Schrodinger's cat stupid?
Like the analogy, or the
like the cat is there or not there?
Oh,
but you don't know until you look to see if the
Before you look, you must assume that the cat is both alive and dead.
I think it trying to explain like a quantum physics thing more than
I get it, but there's also reality, right? And it can't be both of those things, right? It's contradictory.
Yeah, but the quantum thing proves the God.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding.
I'm turned around right now, and you can't see me. So are my eyes open and shut? You have to assume that they are both open and shut, right?
Well, that's always the conundrum of quantum stuff.
Jared,
what happens if I tell you they're open? Like they're open right now. Do you know they're open, or do you still have to assume?
Up until yesterday, we were supposed to always assume not pedophile, and now we have to assume all are pedophile. That's Schrodinger's Epstein announcement.
Wait, are you saying we must assume our heroes are both pedophiles?
We must assume every famous person. Up until now, it was the null hypothesis or the assumption of innocence. After that announcement, we now must assume all famous people are pedophiles until they cleared up. This is Schrodinger's Epstein list. Arthur Clarke ran around the same areas that Foucault did, which was the Tunisian boys, the African boys. Run around there is where you can get the good loving them.
But no, I thought RC is Sri Lanka.
Oh yeah, I guess.
And he went there specifically because they didn't have age of consent laws.
Yeah, but I think that's also why Foucault went to Tunisia. But see, Arthur C. Clarke could have gone there too, but maybe he just liked the Sri Lankan boys better, I guess.
This beautiful country is much better than my shithole. You can get boy dick here.
Is that the idea of identity as free and flexible and gender as a performance, not an essence, is one of the foundations of queer theory.
Why didn't you word it that way for your interlocutors, Jared? It's performance. Gender is just performance.
Oh, God.
Except one chapter later, Judith Butler also says sex is just a social construct. Wah, wah. Very first opening book, the very first one that separates gender and, well, it's actually, people said John Money separated gender and sex before that, which was ideological. That didn't exist until ideological people started saying it. But she came out with this book saying that they're for sure different sex and gender, but sex is also a social construct.
Theory. So Judith Butler is considered sort of the creator of queer theory, but it's well known that she was heavily influenced by Foucault, which is what makes him the grandfather of queer theory. Foucault was among a number of intellectuals who signed a 1977 petition to the French Parliament.
You know what I say we need to do? As bigots, we need to take back our word. Queer was our word for the longest time. We could give him a different word. We need to start calling this fag theory. Think about queer. Queer's a mean word now. Fag is LGBTFIA plus now.
Yeah.
You're preaching fag theory, and we're calling you queer baits again.
Jonathan Streeter. We've heard people out in the world there say that Jonathan Streeter should cover this stuff on his channel if he wants to talk about it so much. He did. He went and he dug up this petition and read it like all the different people, the names list and all that sort of stuff. Spent some time on his channel talking about it. And anytime he talks around Mormon stories anywhere, somebody will pop into the threads to call him a bigot and a transphobe.
Well, he fully translated the Michel Foucault, Noam Chomsky debate. He's done a lot of this shit.
And he did it professionally and like a good physician would. Just like we just found out this week that he was cited in the Cass report. What's the Cass report? What
is a Cass report?
Oh, if I worked in stuff, I think I'd know about the Cass report. Just saying. He was cited in it for talking about some of the stuff, and I have some stuff from those weird conservative twinks, those conservative elves who went into detail about the conservative wood elves who went into detail or read that Atlantic article that we brought up last week about the leftist bubble, where they're finally starting to admit it and come to their senses about it. They have to do it because, like, at some point or another, they got to realize that going along with this stuff was part of what got them Trump, and it's going to just get them more Trump. Like they have to reel the stuff in or put the woke away, as an academic agent would put it. But It goes in more because this whole queer Jeopardy thing, as we've gone before, talks about Pat Khalifa, Gail Rubin, all of them talking about wanting to lower ages of sex. And Pat Khalifa wrote a bunch of child porn sex as part of their canon of work. Canon? Yeah.
Oh, yuck, nobody's yum, buddy. All right, that's fucked up.
And it just got to this part at the end, which hadn't been there before. I don't know where iHypocrite found this.
Wear shoes is old enough to participate.
He said there was no restriction on sexual consent.
Let's see.
Which is, he's not unique. There's also Pat Califia said that any child old enough to be able to choose whether he or she wants to wear shoes is old enough to participate in sex, by which she doesn't mean playing doctor, but instead
yeah, this stuff's the guy going into detail about it is
my 4-year-old picks his own shoes. I would kill this guy if he said it in front. I'm serious. As soon as he's said that, I'm like seeing red. I'm like, fuck, that's my 4-year-old. I'm baseball batting you to the goddamn jaw.
The thing about this stuff is it follows, like it's from what their other claims are, it follows. You know, it has to follow.
Yeah.
Like every single thing that they claim means that you have to rethink all categories and rethink all social constructs. I mean, well, we'll get into like what she says here about Foucault and what he thought the bigger travesty was than the child sex.
I mean, Pat Califia has written child torture porn.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so go ahead.
So yeah, this is quite a common argument amongst queer theorists, and Foucault himself made the argument in this radio interview. He said that there is not actually harm done by adult males raping children, but rather that children are merely socially constructed as a vulnerable population through various psychological, medical, and legislative discourses, and that the pedophile is merely socially constructed as a figure, as a phantom. They're nothing more than a phantom, and that the creation of this phantom through the law on sexual consent would actually cause the social harm and be carried out on the bodies of men and women and children throughout society. So this is what queer theory does. There is no material relations of power or exploitation or harm, but it's merely these phantoms of social norms that are causing the harm, these categorizations of people, the categorization of the pedophile or the BDSM or the sadist even.
All of that follows from the extreme like obliteration of the categories of like age and the categories of gender and the categories of sex. Like it is extreme category disruption.
The goal is reality version the goal and postmodernism the tool? Like what I want to do is invert reality to you so I can get actually no, they're both tools. The goal is always diddling kids, and the best way to do that is reality inversion, because it's diddling kids is probably one of the worst things you can do. I have to invert reality if I want to justify it. And the tools I use to do that are postmodernism, right? Because like saying you're actually why don't you want kids to be able to do sex stuff? Well, because it fucks them up. Actually, it fucks them up not to. You're oppressing them by not letting them.
Having the state turn this into some sort of criminal activity. And
when it comes to child sex, suddenly Foucault becomes a libertarian.
Yeah,
it's only bad because society decided that it was bad. You know, like drinking bleach isn't actually bad. It's only bad because society decided that it was bad.
Yeah, I mean that's ultimately like what it gets to. And how do we bring pen and paper between this? I had to get ChatGPT to write it 3 times because it did one of those things where it starts hallucinating and just tell you stuff when it doesn't know the answer. But you can read about in the history of sex from Foucault. One of the most.
It's just like my dad. He knows so
he
much.
Just start hallucinating answers.
Yeah, like he knows a lot, but then he gets to a point where he just starts making shit up.
I don't know about that one. I want to get that way. Anyway. Supposedly one of the most famous books read by Foucault, it's a tome, it's like a bunch of different books, The History of Sex, has the story in it, and we brought up here about curdled milk. And the story of curdled milk is a story of an older man in some old French town who just wanted to play around with one of the little girls, and the curdled milk is his what do you call that? Is the way I'll say it the way they told it to me in graduate school, his abject material that got on the little girl. And only in the modern era did they decide to bring in the state to turn this into some major criminal situation, criminal activity, and all that sort of stuff. And isn't it a greater harm to bring in the state and turn this into, bring pen and paper into this? One of my favorite jokes by what was that one-line joke teller dude from the 90s? Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah.
One of his favorite jokes. One of my favorite jokes is like,
remover on my dog. Now he's gone.
my favorite joke. One of my favorite jokes is, I got a donut, and they said, "Would you like a receipt?" And I said, "We don't need to bring pen and paper into this." But that's basically what Foucault was trying to say to people about bringing criminal activity, about child rape and all that sort of stuff. This was some of the stuff that I would like to bring up to Bill Real and all those types of guys when they said, how do you justify Joseph Smith's supposed sexy times with the or marriages with the underage people? And I guess we could just justify it with Gavin McInnes saying, like, if it's 12, I don't care. But no, we could justify it all with Foucault. And who's a huge Foucauldian? Dan McClellan's a huge Foucauldian. Did you guys watch the video of Dan McClellan getting?
Hell yeah.
Dan McClellan got smacked around this week, I would say. And what that guy says about the scriptures obviously having stuff that points towards heterosexual relationships being the norm and all that sorts of deal, or what is expected of Jesus and God. If you can argue those things or not, the better point that he's making all the way through it is that Dan's holding to his positions through dogma. Like, he's projecting his ass off when he's going around saying everybody else is holding to dogma, and he's not. All of Dan's positions are dogmatic. Great video on that. What was that guy's name? I'll pull it up later just to see it. Anyway, we got to go to just a little bit of the conservative wood elves.
They said some cool things in that one. They said a few cool things that I've been liking. One of the ones, it wasn't
the one
this
wood
one.
elf mispronounces so many words though.
Oh, it's hilarious. His wife always calls him on it.
Because the Travistock Clinic, which, like, I guess is like a kind of Freudian slip. It's like, yeah, it is a travesty, but there's no R in Tavistock.
Yeah, he did a few of them that were pretty funny. Yeah, I'll talk about that one later.
Well, I mean, one of the things I was lamenting earlier was that I didn't have like good clips of this. I didn't have time to like pull out good clips because it's really just the whole episode. They kind of read the entire Atlantic article that you had to get behind a paywall that we pointed out last week. So if you want to hear that article without going behind the paywall to listen to the Atlantic article, go listen to these guys, Base Camp, talk about the left is turning on trans. And this is what that article was kind of instrumental too on some other confrontations that we knew had happened. But some people are bringing it up to people who've held tight to certain ideas, like, if you don't affirm people, you're going to commit, cause suicide and all that sorts of stuff. Completely unaware that there are plenty of studies and stuff done on this. And not only that, in the CAS report and the WPATH reports, there's proofs, and they've been revealed and shown. Michael Schellenberger has gone into huge detail about this, that these guys who were in charge of these different groups did all they could to hide anything that they didn't want seen. And, p hacking, show like the opposite of science. The opposite of good empirical epistemology.
They went beyond that. Where, like, if they had a research result that didn't work, they just simply buried it.
Yeah,
they wouldn't publish.
And anything that sounded nasty or terrible or horrible, they wouldn't mention it. And they'd have discussions between themselves that got leaked of how to hide it or how to put it away or how to get it. And you can read that stuff yourself. It's in the CAS report and all these things that got huge enough that the NHS completely changed their protocol. These guys talk about like the Dutch protocol and all that sorts of stuff. The Nordic countries have changed their protocol and all these types of things. And there was all sorts of hacking lies about what, first off, did anybody medicalize underage kids? Yes, because a bunch of people lied about putting kids on hormones, or it's just completely reversible. You can just pause that and it just goes the other direction, which I don't know how anybody believed that in the first place. Like, that could happen in any way. We had enough years of just saying, like, yeah, you could put a 13-year-old on anabolic steroids and nothing's going to happen to them. It was the equivalent of trying to say that, what I mean? And that anybody believed that in the first place and even needed studies. And then those studies got ideologically hacked by completely nutty people. And here's the left, the Atlantic. The Atlantic is coming out and admitting to this stuff. The New York Times has come out and admitted to some of the stuff. And it's so ridiculous. I mean, it's one of the reasons like so many people like I remember watching DeLynn being so concerned that all these people on the right no longer believe our institutional papers that are the papers of record.
No way.
Like you guys, they could see things like this where you were lying about them or playing ideological games about them. And
I mean, it's also one of those things where it's like, okay, you don't need anything beyond like a basic school biology education to know that you can't pause puberty.
Yeah.
Like,
how did anybody ever believe that?
Yeah. The second I heard that, I'm like, no, obviously that's dumb. No, that's clearly not how that works.
Then there was a ton of work. I mean, and you guys are the ones who make Matt Walsh right. You didn't have to make Matt Walsh right, but you made Matt Walsh right and you wrong. That claiming that these underage breast surgery things weren't happening. They were happening all over the place, and they hid it, and they tried to hide it, and they tried to put it away as young as 13 years old. And
why would you even do it at 13?
Yeah,
like, I'm not from there. I know I'm not a doctor, but how many women have their breasts just being done growing at 13 years old? Like, what you do there is you're tightening the skin and then just knowing that it's going to grow more. That's going to be terrible. I mean, lopping off the healthy breasts of young girls is disgusting anyway. Like telling them we already got to do this or you're going to kill yourself. Yeah, you should go to prison for that shit. And yeah, you're right. The puberty blocker thing. Like, I remember the first time I heard the whole puberty is a pause button thing. I had the same reaction that I did the first time I heard about Ozempic and how safe it is for weight loss. I was like, nope. Puberty blockers are a pause button. No.
Gonna have side effects.
They're like, oh, have you looked it up? No, I haven't. And I don't have to. I don't have to look up side effects to know that pausing puberty until you're like, I don't know, 22. I always wondered actually what would happen if you pause puberty, pause it until you're like 22. And then start taking HRT or whatever. Does it just happen anyway? No, it doesn't. You miss the boat. There's a window in which you can hit.
You missed the boat. A lot of things are messed up, and they found out, and they hit it, and they have proof that they hit it in the WPATH files and other stuff that it causes cancer, like highly correlated, not correlated.
Well, cancer. There's cancer. There's sexual dysfunction and infertility.
Lifetime without orgasm.
Well, yeah, that. Oh, you know what pisses me off is anytime you bring that part up, like, why are you caring about little kids' orgasms? Like, look,
I'm not. I'm caring about their adult orgasms and their little kid mind making that. The peewee mind that doesn't know that the wanting to see the nudity is why the panties are attractive, or not vice versa, is the one deciding to remove orgasms from itself.
Like, I don't think about my kids growing up. Sorry, go on.
Last time somebody pulled it, like, gosh, you sir spend a lot of time thinking about other people's genitals. I'm just like, oh, so I can only assume that you have no problem at all with female genital mutilation, because in order for you to have an opinion on that, you'd have to be thinking about little girls' genitals. So you can't say that it's wrong. You're fine with it.
Why are you so obsessed with little girl with a baby girl's?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's been such years of gaslighting. Honestly, and then beyond that, like we've had to go around, like we don't get it because we're nobodies. We get it like in individual fights and all that stuff. Jonathan Streeter cannot talk anywhere in the ex-Mormon world now without somebody popping on and calling him a bigot in the comment section for just very meekly, honestly telling the truth and being honest about it. And where has John DeLynn been on all that? Like egging it on, if anything. If anything.
Yeah.
These guys, I mean, we're going to the reason I point to it, go to Basecamp. They read that whole article that we wanted to pull up last week that was behind paywall. So you can just like get the whole article from them with their little bits of commentary with some missed words and
yeah, the missed words are funny.
Yeah.
He had a really cool thing in one of his other videos where I tried to word something exactly like this, but it was a lot clumsier. In talking about why they make things intentionally ugly all the time. Like you'll see like their animation style, their art style, their weird haircuts that's like a straight across, just objectively ugly, shitty haircut and stuff like that. Like why do lefties try to make things intentionally ugly? And he was saying, I might butcher what he said, but it was, my theory is that they want truth to be what it would be if it were ethically perfect, and therefore they assume whatever is ethically perfect is true. And I'm probably fucking that up, but it's
no. I
basically
think
like,
you're right. I think
if things are ethically perfect in a lot of people's mind, then there would be no real beauty, because everybody would be equally as beautiful. So everything you do would be equally as beautiful. And it reminds me of a conundrum that I thought of when I was a kid, thinking of being in the celestial kingdom. When I was first told about it, how you'll kind of get up there and you'll have godlike powers, basically. The first thing I thought about was, what about basketball? Seriously, I was like,
we're all going to be perfect.
We're all just as good as each other at basketball. So it's an unstoppable force and an immovable object. Like every shot you throw, I'll jump 100 feet in the air and block, and then I'll throw it back, and it's just a perpetual motion machine.
Yeah.
What if it's like a Jacob Hansen thing, where by perfection it doesn't really mean perfection, and so like you still could miss shots, but the thing that's perfect is that the referee never makes the wrong call. That's celestial basketball.
Are we going to talk about the big news?
Of course.
The big news that we're all going back to the church because this new cipher theory changes everything.
Yeah, we're getting to that. Which, I mean, I guess we're coming up to here because I'll tell you what I'm going to hit. I'm
not in a hurry. You do what you
do.
No.
I'm going to bail by 10 or there.
Yeah, so we're making a point, and I know you're going to want to talk about that flip. So we're talking about here. Maybe we'll come back to this one, but I'll just tell you what it is. Because I was just going to point to, here you got the, there's the article, Peterson, if you want to find the article. That's what you could listen to on Basecamp. But we're just kind of pointing back to like this thing that we've been talking to the ex-Mormons about, that who want to hold on to these different things that come from queer theory and the academy, and they don't want to call them out because I assume they don't want to get on the same shit list that Jonathan got himself on, just by being honest. But we know that that's always been there in academia, and that's even talked about in that Atlantic paper. But we've been crying since forever, like that thing of the dragons thing we talked about with the Dillahunty. What is that? Flight of Dragons, where it's got that whole ending. John Ritter talking about science and this and this and this, and it killed the magic of the dragon because the science stuff comes here. And then at the very end, we wanted a thing, and then Matt Dillahunty pops up, and men can be women, and then all the dragons' heads just pop right back on. And this is what we've been kind of like just griping about. And not just that, we get gaslit just as hard about that stuff. And you guys make stuff like this Josh N thing true, where they kind of go saying, like, if you wanted to be on the side of, hey, we're the hardcore empiricist, you give up the ghost, this stuff. You give up. You can't be those guys. You can't say you have truth Tourette's. If you can't say it for some of the most basic things, like Douglas Murray said, that we the first thing we ever knew, is men are men and women are women. Restow. Oh, Stacker. Yeah, we'll get to this because we said thoughtfully right when we were talking about all those types of frustrations with the fallacies and that stuff. We see Jacob bro doesn't know the difference between correlation and causation. Which Stacker we call him, like King Tepid or whatever.
Yeah.
King
Prince Tepid is what Christopher called him.
A Stacker post is like, hey, did anybody ever notice that Joseph Smith had more wives than he said? Thanks, Stacker. You're blowing my mind, Stacker. Like every single one of his posts is just like, okay. Who radicalized you? It's Michelle Foucault and Judith Butler. And there's my picture who radicalized you, Michelle Foucault and Judith Butler. And yes, it was force-fed to me in graduate school, where I was supposed to be reading literary art, and I was force-fed this shit. Why'd that happen? Because it was like going to the MTC. I didn't know what I was getting into. So then I was going to go into this where Brittany talks about the new religions, which so many people say aren't new religions, but she's calling them the new religions. And we'll just go through this one real quick.
Yeah, I didn't watch that because I deleted TikTok because I got tired of getting 15,000 notifications.
We'll watch it for one
Traditional
second.
religion in the U.S. is declining. Here are the 7 new movements that are replacing it. These are the 7 kind of remixed religions that are operating in the brain like a religion because they're giving you meaning, purpose, community, and ritual. The first one is wellness culture, which is salvation through self-optimization and health optimization. So think like podcast bros who are always trying to like level up, or Gwyneth Paltrow who's always trying to detox. It's that kind of thing. And it is operating like a religion. The second one is like techno optimization or transhumanism or like Silicon Valley technology utopia, where everything that we once wanted from God, we can now hope to get through technology, including beating death. Number 3, social justice as your spiritual framework. We saw this especially with Black Lives Matter and Gen Z, that it was not just a political movement for them. For many, it was how they did us versus them. It's how they connected to something bigger than themselves. And it was actually more like a spirituality or a church over just a political movement. Number 4 would be like Harry Potter religion. Like you really orient your life based on I'm a Hufflepuff, or you go to Comic-Con, or you're really into Star Wars, you become a Jedi, which has, become a religion of its own. And it's through fandoms that you find the stories that help you to guide your life. The next one is like sexual communities or kink communities, which do start to operate with their own codes. So things like roles and trust and surrender and transformation. So for many, this is how they rewrite trauma, or how they explore intimacy, or how they even explore transcendence or altered states of consciousness. And there's a whole community going on there. Number 6, the new religion that I'm most worried about is alt-right online extremism.
Okay, McClellan.
And there's certain religious traits that are happening here. So apocalyptic thinking, martyrdom, mythic enemies, insider language, group salvation. And this is very toxic and dangerous, but it's providing belonging and identity. And
the thing is like, I even commented, I showed it to you guys. This is gonna go to the last one. Like, I don't generally disagree with like each one of the groups or even that group, but this is the one that's toxic and dangerous, and she's worried about. Like, I just commented like, no, every single one of them, like any religion, has something to worry about with it because people get nutty with it. Every single one of them. But you reveal your dumb bias and blindness by and as an audience capture too. Do you have to say that you're afraid of that one? I'm sure she's also afraid of that one. But
narrative to young men who don't have any. And then the last one is witchcraft and pagan rituals, which is very much a feminine rejection.
It's fun and fine.
It's all about celebrating intuition and the body.
Oh, you like that one. You got nothing negative to say about that one, even though there's weird shit in that.
Femininity and divine feminine and individual rituals.
And being a single mom and having sons that are much more likely to go to prison and about 1,000% more likely for recidivism. And wives.
And all sorts of them that we can pull up and prove, do all sorts of stuff like have abortion rituals with aborted baby blood.
Like one of those things where like I don't have to see the stats on it. I would bet big money that the number, like the proportion of people who say they're Wiccan and who are also single fucking moms is just wildly higher than like almost any other demographic.
Yeah, the thing is, like, even the alt-right one, like, I agree, like, every one of these are becoming religions, but the way you weave your crap bias into it while always pretending to be neutral, that this one's scary and the rest of them are fine. And someone, like, she even goes into here, like, which one do you like? I like the chocolate chip and I like the orange flavored one. No, they all can go nutty.
Force them into a box
because that's what happens with religious thinking.
But also, it's like which one of these groups right now is committing the most violence? I know I've been told for the last decade that the people we have to look out for the most as far as domestic terrorism goes are alt-right straight white men, and that's just not even nearly true.
This over here. Billboard Chris pointed out that a psychologist named Wallace Wong, who works at the BC government, is transitioning over 1,000 children, including more than 500 foster kids, and most of those foster kids are Indigenous. Perfectly fine over there. We gotta transition the Indigenous kids. But one of the big things that happened this week is this group of look at that. They look like they're all women. Of people who the 10 alleged members of North Texas Antifa terror cell that carried out an attempted murder on federal officers at a shooting terrorist attack on an ICE facility, which pulled the same thing that firefighter did in Idaho, where they decoyed him out with some sounds and then shot at the officers.
Another thing I thought the NPR today had an article about ICE agents are wearing masks, and this is eroding public trust.
After all the years of masks.
Yeah. No, but also just like, and I mean, maybe they reported on it. I didn't do a deep dive because I was just at work and looking on my phone. But I scrolled through like the last 4 days of NPR articles, And I didn't see any reports on any of the multiple attacks on ICE facilities that have happened in the last week.
Yeah.
Or on any of the Democratic politicians who, like, did you guys see the one of that mayor lady in L.A. that was calling out the gang, saying like, "Hey, when are you guys gonna fucking protect your hood?" You know,
was that Karen Bass?
Karen Bass, yeah.
Did you know that she's?
It's some other lady. It's like she's.
Do you know that Karen Bass is tied to that bombing from the Weather Underground in the 80s?
What?
Yeah, she comes directly from that same group. She's tied to the people who supplied weapons to those people who bombed the courthouse in the Weather Underground in the 80s. Yeah, 100%. Look it up. Let's see here. But no violence, nothing to worry about over there. Nothing to,
mostly peaceful.
Mostly
peaceful.
peaceful.
That I like more than the others. I like the pagan witchy space. I have, some concerns about it, but I do like the idea of digging into archetypes and the inner work that you can do in that space. I like the social justice movement, even though.
And to dunk on Peterson and all that stuff, I think the archetype stuff is as bonky as anything. I think it's as bonky as I like it, like I said, for storytelling stuff, but I think it is as bonky as Plato's forms,
I have some concerns about political religions because it can give you a sense of meaning and purpose that's bigger than yourself, and it can really help you tap into that. And then I like the nerd space. I like just because
no sort of weird hairy, people don't get weird about that stuff. There's no sort of weird furry stuff. There's no sort of weird pedophilia in that world. And there's no sorts of things going on over there.
Kind of modern mythology.
Yeah, it's just like picking out like an ice cream at one of your ice cream shops that you get millions of dollars for, whatever.
Really fun. And if you want more on all of that, I recommend the book Strange Rites, Rites. Then one of the biggest books in the space in the past 5 years.
She like her husband runs an ice cream shop that they recently got fined for underage workers at it. But
really?
At least it wasn't pedos. Well, maybe. No, just kidding. None of that is true. But what I'm just pointing out here is now that we've resolved that everybody in the secular academic world over here is hardcore on epistemology and hardcore empiricists and hardcore truthy truthers who just no matter what seek for truth Tourette's, truth autism, we can finally situate ourselves on the rock to go after the most truthful, difficult video ever put out, the most difficult to debunk ever video put out. We're right square in the world of truth. We can now go after the book
listened
of
to
Abraham.
this again today. I listened to it once earlier this week, and I listened to it on 1.5 speed. And today I listened to it again at regular speed just to see if I could make any more sense out of it than the first time, and I couldn't. I only had more questions.
I just got to say, so I did, not to tell too much out of tales, but I did ask Jacob directly about a debate with Kobe if both sides did, like if Kobe decided to do a debate as on the trans thing and Jacob decided to do a debate on the LDS thing, and Jacob did say that he would not debate the LDS thing with Kobe now. And so chalk that one up to Kobe and what Kobe was saying. Although I still stand skeptical that Kobe would actually take the queer theory debate. And not because I don't think Kobe is, I mean, besides like making some fallacies that any of us can make at any sort of point, like in that video, like I said, you guys poisoned the whale, but yeah, you got to the point and all that sort of stuff, but that's just how you can get nitpicky about fallacies and that sort of thing. But I actually do think RFM and Kobe have very strong, epistemology and empiricism, all that sorts of stuff. But where are you guys? Like, where are you on this sorts of stuff? And, but beyond all that sort of thing, that's also why I would stand skeptical that you would take that debate, partially because I think that you would land on the side of being more empirical and saying some stuff that could get you in trouble in the Delin audience world. That's my hunch. My hunch is that you would be too empirical to dare to do that. What do you guys think?
Probably.
So bringing us to the Book of Abraham stuff, like I said, so Jacob probably would not debate this one with Kobe. I saw that Kobe and RFM were answering it in the in the replies and all that sort of stuff, kind of taking it on. I don't know if we need to set up for the audience what the video said. And I would guess speak to Jacob if like Jacob ever hears this, like, Jacob, I like a lot of your apologetics and all that sort of stuff. And then I know this one was more Hayden. This one's not good. You know?
Yeah, I am utterly baffled that they think that this is a win. I still can't figure out how they call this a win.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Or it's
Are we talking about the
a
Book of
very
Abraham now?
tall tale. Yeah. I got to run the restroom too. If you want to start setting up like maybe what it said while I find. Oh, here's the just to show the video of it. Here's the video where this guy,
Data Dan.
This guy who's got his own evangelical style, Robert Gagnon, he's been taking on
Is
Dan
it
McClellan.
Dogma Dan,
And he has
or-
his own dogmas because he's an evangelical Christian. But he's 100% right in taking down that Dan is dogmatic, holding dogmatic.
Hey, McClellan.
Let's see here. I'm trying to get to the Abraham video. I think I have it somewhere. I don't have clips of it, so maybe you want to try it. This might be the tallest order. Did you ever see that when Rich Evans tries to explain the Neil Breen movie?
That's actually easier to follow.
I feel like asking you to do that one is going to be a little bit of this one. Here.
It's Science Man Explains Terminator Genesis.
So, go ahead and try it. I got to run the rest of it.
The things in the papers, the Joseph Smith papers, that have always been relayed to us as being notes from the translation of the Book of Abraham were never intended to be translations of the Book of Abraham, but are actually supposed to be ciphers that they used to secretly communicate with each other sensitive revelations about the Doctrine and Covenants.
And some of the characters ended up in the Book of Abraham too somehow.
And
it's like argument 1 defeats argument
also,
2 defeats argument 3.
When they call it Egyptian, they didn't mean Egyptian. They meant not Egyptian. And
so this is the way I've
also critics are so stupid because they actually just like took like church leaders, like they just took 150 years of church leadership and commentary and like the literal pearl of great price, the actual like scriptures that every single one of us had, and we all could see those facsimiles in the back with the interpretations according to Joseph Smith. And
yeah, we stupidly trusted the guys that talk to God.
We thought that those were supposed to be the translations.
Yeah,
but obviously, duh. Of course they weren't.
No, so this one always gets me because like there's two kind of, and I mean Colby's in the chat. He's researched this a lot more recently than I have, and probably a lot more extensively than I ever have.
Come on,
but I remember researching it a little bit. I remember there being two main theories to try to cope with the Book of Abraham, and I've always said the Book of Abraham is easily the biggest hurdle for the Mormon Church to get through, and I think it's pretty much impossible. So the two main theories, it seems like there's the catalyst theory, right, which is saying that this scroll was not something he was being that he was translating literally, but something that he had as a spiritual catalyst, and it helped him to write the true word of God. If I'm trying to put on my Steelman Mormon hat, I would say that that's somewhat feasible, but also at the same time, you would have to say that Joseph Smith clearly thought he was translating, like literally translating from things that he said. He thought he was translating. So you would have to say that he was using it as a catalyst to get spiritual truths, but he thought he was translating, and God was just like, "Hey, fuck it, I'll let him think he's translating. That's fine."
Yeah.
And then the other one was the missing scrolls theory, and Chris actually had a really good. I tried to do a good analogy, but I think Chris's analogy was a little bit better. The missing scrolls theory is saying that you've got the part of the manuscript that we still have, and what was burnt down. Now, what we still have was translated back in the day, and it just didn't match anything that Joseph Smith had written about it. And so then you get the missing scroll is trying to say, yeah, maybe the stuff that he translated doesn't have anything to do with Abraham. It has to do with funerary texts that were like centuries different from when Abraham supposedly lived. But the rest of the scrolls were definitely Abraham, right? Like, I think I'm representing it accurately, which is
well. I mean, they don't even. I mean, they're careful enough to just not say it's definitely Abraham, but it's the book of Abraham of the gaps. Basically, like, well, it's not there, but it could be somewhere else. But like, there's so many weird things about this. Number one is like, Kate, the book of Moses. There was never any claim at all to some source for that. He just received a direct revelation. Like, so why do we even need the thing? Why do they even care? But then also, like, clearly Joseph thought that the facsimiles that we have published in the scriptures were the actual book of Abraham, because he said so, even though according to Jacob and Hayden we're assholes for thinking that he said so, even though they're in the fucking scriptures.
Not just that, like, just last week we were kind of like being a bit like, don't go too hard on fallacies, and some of the fallacies they dropped were like just like so hard fallacies. Just like
oh yeah,
the argument of authority, and this guy's got a bunch of credentials on Egyptology, and that's an old argument, and
oh my god, that is Cardinalis's favorite. This is like an old argument, you know what I'm saying, bro? And like they've been using this argument for 150 years, and it's long since debunked. I'm not going to tell you how it's been debunked, though.
So I tried to, because it gets really confusing. I know Marty listened to it twice trying to get to it too, and I think that's maybe kind of one of the deals too. Is like, oh, this sounds real complicated. I guess they figured it out. As we know, it's like a lot of the different fair stuff is like, as soon as stuff's addressed, they can say it's been addressed. It's now been addressed type stuff.
It definitely had a little, almost like a hypnotism kind of thing, where you're like, wait, what? Oh, oh, and then we're talking about this now, and like again, so I listened to it twice trying to make it out.
To try to put it into, like, tell me if it's like a bad analogy. I gave it to you guys earlier, but imagine I die, I have a funeral. At my funeral, my brother writes like a whole obituary for me. That's kind of like laced in current day stuff about funeral stuff, and maybe even his religion or something like that. Thousands of years in the future, a guy makes a religion, says that Shakespeare once gave him this story. Oh, well, we'll get to that. The guy makes a whole other religion and other sorts of stuff, and he comes across my funeral papers that were written up from my brother, right? He sees them, doesn't know what they are, and he says Shakespeare wrote them. And when Shakespeare wrote them, it included the entire story of this whole other thing that includes the planet Zorkobob and who knows what. But they didn't speak our language, so they didn't know like what my brother's funeral about me said, right? So then later they do get the language and they find out what my funeral papers say, and they go, "Well, this wasn't Shakespeare at all. He actually even lived hundreds of years before that guy, or something like that." And he says, "Yeah, but somewhere in his funeral papers, he said it's going to be sad to say goodbye to you, and that sounds like parting is such sweet sorrow." So that's basically Shakespeare. It's referencing Shakespeare.
There's gonna be some 6-hour-long Mecha Mormon presentation on the Book of Chris.
So the referencing of Shakespeare,
this changes everything.
His brother at his funeral saying that he's going to miss him, which obviously refers to parting is such sweet sorrow, which is Shakespeare, is actually where you can see that Chris's brother was putting in a cipher that tells the whole entire story. That is the actual story that future prophet guy said Shakespeare said.
This 21st
the ciphers of the funeral words that Chris's brother wrote for Chris's funeral.
This 21st century obituary says "I love you," which, crazily enough, is actually a phrase that was really commonly used in the 16th century, specifically in the writings of one William Shakespeare. I rest my case. This changes everything.
Not just that reference. That's what it probably means is my brother was able to put an entire coded other book inside of my funeral that future prophet was able to read, and not only was it intelligible in our funeral language at my funeral, but it's also decipherable, able to understand as the story that the future prophet wrote from the Shakespeare stuff, and the story tells us about the planet Zorkobob.
I would tell the apologists, honestly, out of those, none of them are very believable, but out of those theories that you got, the most believable is the catalyst theory. And you just got to say that, yeah, Joseph Smith thought he was translating, but God was just having him use that as inspiration, and what he spat out was true. It's the do yourself a favor and call it faith principle, and it's the only really route you got.
Flip always says that too, and then this one, like I could totally see, like Christopher, who looks with us, he really likes like the imagery from the stuff, and he like draws pictures and gets other sorts of inspirations that we let him say it or not. Uses other sorts of inspirations he gets from the things like the facsimile, and gets these whole other like breaks into like worlds of thought from that, and gets inspiration from it. You could say that. Yeah, Joseph Smith saw these images and like his mind just opened to all these things, maybe because he was on mushrooms. Well, not mushrooms, the spirit, or something. But all this stuff where you're trying to like make the technical connection is really, really incredulous. And then beyond that too, I mean, we're always very good faith with Jacob, and maybe not so much with Hayden. We've kind of been dickheads to Hayden now.
Oh, Hayden has I'm as mean to Hayden as Flip is to Jacob.
Even Kevin got a little mean with Hayden.
Well, no, that was the reason I was mean to Hayden in the first place. Was because
Hayden was
Kevin
a total bitch.
Well, yeah, Kevin very briefly pushed back against him on some like Ezra's eagle prophecy thing, and Hayden flipped out on him, and Kevin called him. He said, "You're being a little pedantic right now," and then Hayden blocked him, kicked him out of the fucking group. And so, and he said it was because he was insulting people. So then I spent the next like 2 days, just every couple hours, like this post will be increasingly insulting to Hayden until he unblocks Kevin. And I say the first one was Hayden is a wiener. Tee.
Yeah, then I went in there and like started doing the Monty Python insults on him and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we had him on, I don't even remember what we debated about him on here. We had him on here to debate. And all that
He
stuff.
debated theism with Flip.
He tried to do the objective basis for morality bullshit, but he didn't know that I've been around that block for almost 20 years now, and I just shut him down right from the start. Like I just remember when he said, like, well, where do you think we get our morals? And I said, I don't know, and you don't either, because that's the reality. Like,
it's a very difficult thing to argue against.
Yeah,
yeah, that's a whole other subject. I mean, we got in that stuff about the presuppositionalism and all that sort of stuff. Kind of talk about today, but I think that's actually a point of humility that you could come from a secular side, just in the sense of saying like, yeah, that stuff's really, really hard to land on if you don't have just some starting point that you guys call God. It's just we can also look at that point and say, but that's also a human invention, like that starting point. But at least you have a bunch of people who started from a point, because all the other philosophies can't choose a point to start from. Just infinite arguments about it. Or maybe the God's there or something. But that sort of stuff gets really hard to land on, and that's what you were talking about Hayden with. But this video does bother me because it does take me back to when I initially left the church, as we were talking about. 100% when I found out the bad stuff about the church, and I don't think I'm speaking for myself. This is probably true of most of us. For Marty, I know Jared said the same.
Fair.
I did not get upset at finding out about the shit. I got upset at the apologists' bad responses.
Yeah, so I found out about it through the response, because I got back from my mission, and like the CES letter had just come out, and one of my friends had left the church, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't really believe in it anymore." And I was like, "Why not?" And it's like, "Well, there's this letter this guy wrote, CES director." But he was trying to be really cool about it. He's like, "I don't want to drive you away from it if you don't want to. And so I'll give you some link." He actually sent me a link to Fair's responses to the CES letter. So I open up the CES letter and I like read some of the skim notes and I was like, that seems kind of fucked up. Let me look at this other thing that he sent me. And I look at FAIR and oh my God, these are the fucking answers. You guys got okay.
My first experience with that was I read not No Man, No Man's History. What was the one?
Rough Stone Rolling?
No, a little before that one. The Insider's Guide to Mormon Origins.
Oh, the Grant one.
I read that one right when it came out, and I noticed, and it was like one of the first things that I'd heard it like advertised on NPR or something like that, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to check this out," and I read it, and then I immediately I was a little upset, but I'd already been kind of like hearing some of the stuff, and then I immediately saw, oh my gosh, it's been out a week, and there's 5 responses from Fair and Farms. Like there are already 5 of them. Like, oh my gosh, that's so fast. Like I couldn't believe how fast it was up. And I went and read them, and it was straight ad hominem, really. Like all 5 of them. It's just like, this guy he's not an insider. He's not, all that sorts of stuff.
Well, no, they try to pull that on him all the time, where they're like, he doesn't even believe in the Mormon Church when he wrote the letter. Like, yeah, he writes that in the intro. He says, look, man, my grandpa really wants me to write you. I'll level with you. I'm pretty far gone. So here you go.
Yeah. And so when I read those, I was pretty upset about that. But I got like a hint of all that, like watching this again, just in the sense that like you take the angle. Like I can 100% be on this sorts of thing of like, you guys want to believe this thing and you believe this thing. I can let my family be that and be that way with all sorts of my friends. But when you take the angle, we're the assholes.
Yeah, I know that's the additional thing, because like I don't know, Daniel Peterson was probably the least popular apologist among ex-Mormons for a long time, because he was the most smarmy. Because you would get like Rod Meldrum, or you would get Brian Hales. I mean, they had dog shit explanations for everything, but they were pretty nice-ish. And Dan Peterson was kind of a dick, but.
Yeah, Dan Peterson was one of the first ones I ever noticed. Like, this guy just spits on people.
But like, Jacob's been doing it. Cardin, I mean, Ward Radio in general. A lot of those guys have been just like, can you believe these stupid idiots still think that Joseph Smith had sex with the 14-year-old girl that he persuaded to marry him by telling her that her family's salvation depended on it? It's so stupid to think that he would have sex with, because nobody even wrote down these two had sex on this date.
Isn't that Brian Hill's take on that one a little bit?
No, it is. It's just he's not as smarmy as Cardin.
Did you watch their review of Andrew Wilson?
No, I didn't.
That one, maybe we'll get to that one after Flip's got to go. But that one's kind of interesting because both are right and both are wrong. like they're right about some of Andrew Wilson's douchiness, and they're wrong about some of Andrew Wilson. And then Andrew Wilson's like there's a new Jim Bob cartoon about what Mormons believe, and they try to debunk the Jim Bob cartoon.
You really can't argue that Andrew Wilson isn't a douche.
Yeah, but then you also can't argue that the way Andrew Wilson wins in the world is that he trips people up on morality debates. And one of my long-standing things of all this stuff is the new atheists and the red atheists, like, they don't need to get this tripped up about this stuff, but they're just kind of like not ready for how hard it is to land on morality, really. And that's just really all it is. So you gotta get into it like a bit more and understand like all the caveats and difficulties and all that sorts of stuff with it. But they go to somebody who they just think like it's true because it's true because you know like
you ask about the smoke detector.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's me. I'm fucking mad because like I changed that seriously a week ago, unless it's a different one.
Maybe I thought you
bad battery.
Yeah, like a little bit darker tinted. I haven't heard it, but I've got ear canceling phones on, so if it's happening in my room, I wouldn't hear it. But I do have a dog.
I'm almost positive it's me.
But I've still got the smoke detectors by my neighbors, and I was asking on Facebook the other day, and I really do mean it. Like, would it be bad form of me to take batteries around as like a gift basket to all my neighbors to ask them to change their smoke detectors
with an instruction?
Yeah.
The world needs a little bit more Karen energy, passive aggressive, shit like that.
But just what I'm saying is like Andrew Wilson. It's like if you watch him debate Tim Pool about rights, you just find out that not that Andrew Wilson's so great. It's just Tim Pool hasn't thought about rights very much. You know what I mean? And he can just catch people like that real easy. So he was trying to find out Mormon stuff, and he pulled up Jim Bob made a movie about what Mormon missionaries actually believe. And maybe we'll pull up the Word Radio one after that. But the things are like it's not terribly wrong, and they debunk the video that's not terribly wrong, but maybe it's like a bit hyperbolic. But it is all the stuff about becoming an eternal God and Lucifer's Jesus' brother and stuff like that. And they try to debunk that like it's so stupid. Reese says, "Have you seen Andrew lose a debate?" That's one of the problems. I can't. But they brought up on that video. I don't know if we want to keep talking about this because like little clips and stuff like that. But I don't really have clips. But we just mentioned that. Well, what the whole framing of what the story is really difficult to accept. I wouldn't say it's hard to grasp too, but I think after you grasp it, that's far-fetched, guys. Like even if I was Mormon, like if I was 100% believing Mormon, I'd be like, this ain't it.
Yeah, no, like I'm trying to imagine if I was a Mormon and I read that or saw that and I'd be like, well, okay, what does this solve? Because like one thing, like because they completely glom onto these itty bitty little details while completely ignoring everything else and just saying, look, the critics haven't even considered this bizarre little thing we've come up with. And it's just, I don't know.
And this bizarre
they didn't consider that it was a cipher.
Like I'm like
this bizarre thing is less believable than
the
original.
Also, like it's got that gaslighting thing where it's like, do I need to go dig up my copy of the Pearl of Great Price and look at the facsimiles again? Because like I remember reading.
I heard the beat.
These are the interpretations. It's totally Jared.
Oh, it's definitely me. I heard it.
Okay.
I gotta go soon, but I wanted to relate the lukewarmest take of the day in Latter-day Lobsters.
What's that one?
I won't say who said it, but I'll just read this. Hot take. Assimilation as an immigrant does not mean throwing your culture, language, identity, core beliefs, or values down the proverbial drain. Despite a common misconception, often rooted in a narrow village mindset, immigrants are not obligated to fully abandon who they are in order to belong. Embracing a new country doesn't require erasing the one you came from.
Why did Jackson Scott Brown say that?
No, it's not that. No. But like, I mean, he didn't get a huge amount of. There's 10 comments, and basically every single one of them is like, "What? No, that's not. Nobody says that. Like that's not how it's ever worked or how it's ever expected to work." And I didn't even get into him too much, but because I said like nobody says this. This is the lukewarm mistake of the day. He's like, well, I married into an immigrant family, and some of the older generations. No, and I was like, no, you didn't. Like nobody says this. You didn't hear this. Like, come on, like this is not a thing.
Oh man, I can't find it.
What?
I can't find the thing you sent. Hey, before Flip goes, you should show the JoJo Siwa song that I.
Can I? Will it? Is it like
it's a
copyright
TikTok
song? Oh, it's TikTok. Well, but it's YouTube. Because if it's music stuff that plays over TikTok, it doesn't play over YouTube. Copyright just for it picking up on the music.
Yeah, if you don't want to do it, it's no big deal.
Is it a song of the?
It's a bit of her actual music video, so.
Oh, that will get deemed.
All right, well, let's not do it then.
By the AI, the AI picks up real produced music, if that makes sense.
Well, let's watch this.
And I've only gotten away with some 70 songs and not gotten dinged for them. What are we gonna do?
I'm pretty sure if we played your own song, we would get dinged. Like,
yeah.
You could probably play, the music you published and that you own the rights to, and YouTube would ding us.
Speaking of my own song, we got a song called Non Sequitur, and the song is about a love story, and then it just ends. The sun blows up the earth.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite ones because it's subversive. Well, it's also subversive in other ways because it's all about a couple that meet and have a big and wonderful life, and there's a whole question at the end where the old guy has dementia, and as far as he can remember, he never cheated on her. He's got dementia.
She never cheated on him, and as far as he remembers, he never cheated on her. And then the sun blew up the earth. and called non sequitur. Yeah, I think that kind of gets in like the stories of what we're all doing if you're like looking at it from like an atheist standpoint or something. Like what's the difference between that story or just telling the story of an anthill and the sun blows up in Earth? And I don't know if it's like fully subversive, just saying, hey, this is how it is, guys, or saying like, doesn't it kind of suck to think this way if you really kind of go all the way down that nihilistic path?
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Is a new anti-Mormon cartoon going around. This guy, I don't know how old this is. Quaku, you've seen this before, right?
Yeah, that's all. I mean, I think it's pretty new.
Yeah, so I have only seen this recently. It looks like the guy posted it around April 3rd, 2025.
Okay.
But it got reposted by Andrew Wilson, who was basically saying...
So Christopher, who you talked about before, Christopher is one of the guys who got into it with Andrew Wilson. And I know Jacob did too, but Christopher was going back and forth with him and like even suggesting to be one of the persons to debate him about Mormonism. But that would have been a bit off too, because Christopher's Mormonism is esoteric.
Brandon Mormonism's a little not traditional, I'd say.
Yeah.
That this is what we believe. But yeah, here the guy posts this with the
and he also was talking about Jim Bob, the guy who made the video,
with the caption, "If Mormons were up front with you." And then he has this animation.
Isn't Andrew Wilson the guy who hates women?
Yep.
Yeah, that guy is.
Real quick,
Who doesn't hate women?
The whole idea of having
What are you,
Christopoulos argue Mormonism or debate Mormonism, because somebody asked him the question like, was Joseph Smith a conscious fraud or a prophet? Chris's answer is yeah.
Yes, both.
Yes. Care to elaborate?
You did that, man. Well, first we will need to take a puff of this, and then let's go.
Yeah, like, meet me in the woods under the full moon. We'll talk.
Bring your paints.
But he certainly seems to in a lot of the content he makes.
That's ad hominem. Andrew Wilson hates women.
He's a dude who goes on. He's got like the founding father hair, right? And he goes on and like gets mad at OnlyFans girls.
We're on the Whatever podcast, right?
Yeah, gosh, that guy is just.
Well, I'm gonna look him up really fast just so that everybody knows exactly who it is we're talking about.
He was on the Whatever podcast with the woman from Jubilee who was a feminist.
Oh, really?
They were arguing about like something about. I think the pretext was like, how much women need men to function or something. And they're like, I bet you can't open this pickle jar. So they give it to her. She can't open the pickle jar. And so he's like, I can open it. They give it to him and he can't open it. And he's like, no. Oh, well, it's because you'll grease the top of it. And he started wiping off in his shirt. Like 10 minutes, he can't open the pickle jar.
So this is the one thing I've seen Andrew Wilson lose. And this, Nathan Orman brought it up, Digital Gnosis, when they were debating, but he kind of was a weak troll about it. But this is pretty pathetic.
And the other guy comes and opens it.
Pardon, the picture that you just had.
Yeah, what about it?
With the robot hand, go back to it.
Okay, yeah. Oh, whoops. Nope, here it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so put that is
okay
because of the pickle jar. If you scroll down, there's the pickle jar.
Oh, that's funny.
Posted with this mechanical hand.
How many alpha males does it take to open a jar of pickles?
Oh, that is too funny.
More than Andrew Wilson.
That's the only problem with these red pill guys. Like 9 out of 10 of the first 9 things they say, I'm totally on board with. It's the 10th when they jump the shark. It's just so crazy. It's like, hey, guys are getting the shaft. Women aren't grateful for our sacrifices. Oh, dude, rock on. I'm totally down there. You know, we should.
That's the opposite ratio I have with Cardin. Like the first 9 things he says, I disagree with, and then he's got one good one.
And you know, our families should be grateful for providership. Gosh, I think you're right. There's far too much criminal justice bias against men. We get sentenced to 7 times harder crimes than women do. Well, gosh, that's pretty factual. More men die in the workplace. We get screwed during divorce. But I'm like, gosh, I'm right there with you. Which means you need to lift weights, more plates, more dates, and have a Rolodex full of 7 women at 6-figure income and be banging 3 hoes at once because they're a bunch of degenerate whores.
That's not.
Not all those things make sense.
That's not what.
That's Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is that way. Andrew Wilson is definitely not that way. But
I was gonna say,
Quaku.
He is a dick to women. I'll give him that.
He's a dick to women, and he does land on stuff that Cardin would disagree with. Like he doesn't think they should vote, or he doesn't think that they should be working. It's kind of like hardcore Mormonism. Well, I don't know if Cardin would believe that if he went back to the hardcore Mormonism or something like that. But yeah, he thinks they should be home, take cares of home, and not vote. And he wouldn't get behind that. But he doesn't know him, but he was mixing him up with like a Andrew Tate presentation. Andrew Tate is that way, yeah.
No, it's just like it's that last line. Where
It's like the solutions do not address the problems that you guys are seeming to be.
Yeah, well, this guy unironically thinks that women should not be able to vote. Like he unironically thinks that, and
really?
and he also. Yeah. Also, people who tend to
Awesome.
think that also tend to hate Mormons. So you're gonna figure out that the whole red pill Christian nationalism is
They
you
are-
don't benefit from that.
They are not on our team, bro.
And you get little Mormons that are like, no, we're all the same, right? No.
But is it even Christian nationalism though? Because everybody that they want to point to is like so unchristian.
That's
know
the
what
point
I'm
of Christian
saying?
nationalism. They believe, to them, Christianity is the European warlord traditions of political Christianity. It has nothing to do with Jesus. They don't like Jesus. They like the religion man-made after his name, so they can subjugate and destroy because they're insecure betas.
Yeah, Quaker talking
Okay,
about
look,
Christian nationalism isn't something I exactly trust.
Yeah, that's not. He's. Well, the weird thing about Quaku is he comes across enough schizos on Twitter that he's kind of probably come across anything, but one-off schizos are not movements, you know. And he keeps, you know, he finds someone off schizo and he can say, "Look, he said it." I'm like, that guy is not the leader of anything anywhere, and you know. We've come across some Twitter schizos ourselves.
Where's the cartoon? I want to see the cartoon.
I have to look at this pickle jar thing, and then we're going to watch this band cartoon.
Oh, do you not want to see the pickle jar debacle?
Whoever these people are on whatever podcast.
Yeah, I gotta be able to grip it.
I think it got spoiled for me.
Uh-oh. Grab me a paper towel so I can dry the top of it off.
Okay, once the top is dry,
But do we now need to allow her another opportunity with it?
This is internet famous beyond just this right here. Like everybody
know.
talking about pickle jars now.
Yeah, give her the paper towel. So
I've
that
definitely met a jar that I had to really rip in.
Keep playing.
Oh, it keeps going?
Yeah, it keeps going.
Okay.
Big strong man. There you go. Come on.
Here, I'm gonna let you
I'm
chat
greased.
some. We got some chats while they're working on that.
I'll let you go first if you want.
No, Andrew, I greased it all up. There you go.
Absolute. I can't grip it. Like, I gotta have a way to grip it.
Jungle.
Andrew, I'm sorry. It's not.
My fingers slip right off the lid. My fingers are literally slipping off the lid. I just can't grip it.
So you can't blame me for my greasy fingers now. Like, God.
It's still greasy.
So, and I think this is a perfect.
Let's see what we're
That Jake just totally mogged you. You had
Kidding me? I'm fast forwarding to that. I'm fast forwarding to that.
Here, wipe it up.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
him.
want to remind
Wait,
you, Andrew,
not him,
that Jake
funny.
just totally mogged you. You had it for a minute, Andrew.
Oh, I guess they still didn't show
Greasy as
She didn't show up, but her boyfriend opened it right after him. So, her feminist boyfriend. We'll get to the video.
That might be fair. So here's the deal. He, after posting a ton of different things about the church, posts this cartoon, and this is the first time I've seen it. So I want people to see it because it's fascinating, the sort of claims that get made here.
Okay, interesting. This just reminds me of the old Beavis and Butthead style animation. So I'm curious to see
the Mike
what.
Judge cartoon style.
Yeah. Oh boy,
What's up? Have you heard about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Yeah, I love South Park. With all due respect, they made us look ridiculous. It's only fair you hear the real Mormonism before you make up your mind. Go on. Did you know the cosmos is filled with countless planets which are ruled by gods who were once human? Elohim was a special human who became a god and had cosmic sex and made 1 billion spirit babies to populate his planet Koloa. You can get your own planet too. That's right, the Heavenly Father was a man just like you who became a god like his father who was just a man just like you who became a god like his father who was just a man just like you who became a god just like his father.
Don't you love how brainwashed
anyway-
they sound the whole time too?
Yeah, and how? Yep, of course. They just—it's the wildest thing. Never in my life did I ever pitch as a missionary that you get your own planet. Yet that's all they ever talk about.
And we can go through and debunk this. But let's finish out the
Yeah, let's
cartoon.
just finish it.
Elohim held
Wait, what's the debunk there so far?
Yeah, no, it's
the
all.
only thing that's there to
all
debunk
that-
is the framing of it. You know.
Yeah, but that's what they believe.
Jesus and the devil.
Except for Jacob
They
Hansen.
helped plan the creation of Earth, where the spirit babies would be sent to inhabit bodies. Lucifer wanted to be the savior of the Earth, but everyone voted for Jesus to be the savior, and those spirits who remained neutral were cursed to look like your neighbor. Carl?
Huh.
So, what do you think? Well, it's all quite fascinating, I'll give you that. Elijah, look at his shirt. Ah, Bigfoot. Yeah, I'm a full cryptid core. That's not Bigfoot. Well, what is it? Have you heard of Cain?
I actually think that last joke is kind of funny.
Yeah, the
Have you heard of Cain?
the only good joke is the end.
Yeah.
Everything else, I'm just like, this falls flat. There's no good comedic timing. It's dry.
Yeah, no. To be fair, it is the first anti-Mormon cartoon that has made me laugh. Right? And
Yeah,
with
the
that
South Park
final
episode
joke-
was funnier.
That's true. That's true. The South Park episode was funnier.
Also, you're the kindest man I know. Were you laughing just?
You think that one would make some random person who didn't know the stuff laugh at it?
Maybe it's not glorious, but
Because you wanted to bail them out and give them a mercy laugh, a mercy chuckle, or did you actually find it funny?
but like I mean that's things like the only thing in it that's like the Cain thing is a folk belief for sure. Everything else they say is pretty doctrinal.
Cain is Bigfoot. As like when he like
I forget like what's in the price and Book of Abraham, but most of that's Book of Abraham stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's
the premise is if Mormons were up front with you, right? Like if the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was sharing what they really believe, and then it ends on, yeah, Bigfoot is Cain, as if that's something that we all.
And once again, like I said, I think that's some of their best beliefs. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's weird, but it's the good stuff. And then the Mormons start running away from it. And I think they should just like, no, this is what we believe.
Actually believe, like that is hilarious to me. And so
I think there's actually a good sketch there. Like you could have a sketch.
And I don't think you need to rescue it by making a big weird cipher story. You know, just say, eh.
A couple guys camping, and then Bigfoot appears, and everyone's screaming, and they're like taking pictures. Like, oh my gosh, it's Bigfoot, Bigfoot! And the Mormon guy steps up and goes, "You killed Abel!" Like that would be a great sketch. Everyone's like, "What?" Like, just trust me, I know who this guy is. That's funny. This is also Jim Bob. Is this 2004? Like, you think that's funny? Like that's literally a fourth grader in like 2001. Like, oh, Jim Bob. No one.
But Jim Bob is his name.
I'm gonna laugh at Jim Bob in 2025.
Well,
it's not a joke. That's his name.
Is
like,
his?
this is one of the things like they say that they shouldn't comment on that stuff. They're talking about Andrew Wilson and Jim Bob, and I don't know if they bring up Jay Dyer, but they're Orthodox. They're ortho bros. All of them are. They're not evangelicals. And Jim Bob is his name.
That's an early internet, like Jim Bob.
Well, I'm looking at Made by Jim Bob.
Like, you know, this guy watches Larry the Cable Guy and actually thinks it's funny.
Okay, well, I look at his avatar picture and his profile picture here. You see this guy right here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not. Okay, for a second, I thought it was the Ancient Aliens guy.
Oh.
You got to admit, that kind of looks like the Banksy version of the Ancient Aliens guy.
I love how that guy 20 years later is still a good meme.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
totally awesome.
That's how you know you're an icon, you know?
Yeah, for real. Okay, so
so here,
your thoughts, Brad, your thoughts.
So I actually shared my thoughts pretty thoroughly with Andrew Wilson here. So
what, really?
Yeah. So
did you go toe to toe the guy, or was this diplomatic Brad?
It was diplomatic Brad. It's always diplomatic Brad.
Okay.
Maybe not always. Maybe I mess up sometimes. But here, if you click on that thread I just shared in the Discord,
dude, I got it right here, my man. Everybody's gonna see it.
And
okay.
So Jim Bob and Jay Dyer and Andrew Wilson. I don't know. I don't know how people are on the internet and not knowing too much about those guys these days, because they're all over everything with that whatever podcast. They've become kind of the biggest actual debate bros all over the internet. You know, they're popping up everywhere trying to debate everybody from their orthodox positions, but they really do more. I mean, Jacob's not right when he warned about Andrew Wilson that those guys don't do much defending of their own orthodox positions. They're just really, really good at going and dissecting everybody else's.
Click there, scroll all the way up.
Okay, all the way up, my man. Wow, look at this. Holy crap, you did the whole thing.
I did. So just because, you know, that Ben Wyatt from Parks and Rec,
yeah,
when he's like, I don't even have time to explain this.
And Jacob was mad that one guy debated Andrew Wilson. There was already a Mormon versus Andrew Wilson debate. And Jacob was mad at the framing of it, because the whole framing of it was, is the Mormon church or not? We're just going to look at the Mormon church. And Jacob's not wrong about that you got to not just set yourself up to be the one getting dissected. Or if you are, you at least got to arrange a place where you can do tit for tat like he and Trent Horn did. Or you are just setting up to be, the best you can do is, you were pretty good at dodging those bullets dancing that were getting shot at your feet. That's the best you can do. You can't say that you got anything off on them.
Is Jared coming back?
I think he's trying to fix that beep.
Yeah.
See you. Okay. Actually, it's gonna really bug me if I don't. Like, that was me this day. And so I said this, LOL at the Kane Bigfoot thing, but legitimately, oh, sorry, you're moving it around. I can't.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. But legitimately, the rest is just a rehash of the God makers that is 100% misrepresentations designed to make our beliefs sound insane. Think of how atheists accuse us of believing in Sky Daddy or call us cannibals for communion. It's like,
no, like that stuff's pretty accurate. Like,
well, but I get the point there of saying, because Sky Daddy's accurate and for communion's accurate. You know, it's what's happening.
I mean, well,
it's
no,
just
it's
a framing thing. It's complaining about the framing.
But I mean, the thing is, in that thing, the framing isn't that far off. Like,
yeah,
that's when they say oh, the war in heaven stuff. Like, no, that's how they say it. They don't have
true.
coded language for it.
Yeah, it's a lot more direct than Sky Daddy, right? Or
yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, it's not a ridiculous, uncharitable reframing. No, that's what we were taught.
So he asked, if you take the satire away, it looks like I heard a beep, Jared's popped back in from a different angle.
I don't have any fucking internet. Apparently just fucking decided to stop fucking goddamn working, and I'm pissed off.
It's connected
so I'm on my phone. There must be. That's what I. That's what I was doing. I went out there and changed my smoke detector battery, so now it's not beeping anymore.
All right, I gotta go to bed. I work. Got any last minute thing for me?
No. We were just still gonna review like what their complaints about this video is.
Cool.
But I don't know. Yeah, I guess the framing just is what it is. I'm gonna read the stuff that he says there. If you take away the satire, go ahead, Flip. If you need a bail.
Cool. See you guys.
Later. If you take the satire away, though, which of the claims are wrong? Okay, so it makes about 6 claims besides the Cain thing, all of which require some pretty major reframing. For starters, the missionary would be focused on Jesus Christ, but the purpose of this is to make us look non-Christian. Remember that the Book of Mormon is. So I don't know if that's the purpose of it. I think
trying
the
to help
purpose
them understand how it's been framed in a way that like makes us look as bad as possible.
And then should I do the voice of Andrew Wilson, or do you want to do the voice of Andrew Wilson?
Oh, go for it. Dude, I want to hear it.
You can do the voice. Okay. Or if you take the satire away, which of the I'm trying to do this, Pickles. Which of the claims are wrong?
And so I went through, and it took way too long because I had like I didn't have Twitter Premium at the time.
Okay.
Actually, Dr. Manhattan bought it for me at the end of this.
Oh, really?
I didn't even know you could do that. But I went through and just like made a thread explaining how this was wrong, right? With its kind of the.
Are you hearing all right, Jared?
Yeah.
Sorry. Claims that it makes besides the Cain thing, because that's just a joke.
Well, just bust it out right now, man. Just tell me.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, for starters, the missionaries would be focused on Jesus Christ, right? He says, this is posted with the caption, if the missionaries were just up front with you, right?
Yeah.
And
That's not big.
they don't mention Christ at all. Yeah. We are the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Book of Mormon is another testament of Jesus Christ. The church is being upfront with you when it tells you that we believe in Jesus Christ. So that's the first thing that I point out. Then I kind of gave him some background on where a lot of this stuff comes from, which is that the majority of this comes from the King Follett sermon,
cipher,
which is a sermon that Joseph.
Is that where? Isn't there something about Isn't there something about the eternal heavens in the Book of Abraham? I don't even remember what's in the Book of Abraham anymore.
I don't totally remember either.
Anybody in the comments? Isn't the eternal God stuff and living to become a God in actual Book of Abraham and Progress?
Oh, I'm pretty sure that's because that's all shit that's in the temple video, and I think that's mostly the Book of Abraham.
Smith gave, and what we have right now is the notes of 4 different guys who heard him, and we have a conglomeration of their notes that makes up what we have as the current King Follett sermon. Did you guys know that?
I knew that there was some. I mean, it wasn't just like recorded on the iPhone audio memo app. Yes, and that there was they've had to tie together different versions of the story. Yes.
So, like keeping track of the apologists, the cipher was able to write down the whole Book of Abraham right. But these people witnessing Joseph Smith talk about this stuff were probably not able to write down Joseph Smith words right in the King Follett.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, regurgitated stuff is exact when it's one way, and
depends on who's regurgitating.
Yeah.
So
I am a much more efficient vomiter than most people.
To make it sound as bad as possible. Like, this is not the church being upfront with you. This is people being completely ridiculous in our beliefs. So the first claim is that the cosmos is filled with countless planets, which are ruled by gods who were once human. Have you guys ever heard that once?
No. Well, yes, on anti-Mormon evangelical hit pieces and ex-Mormon.
Wait. What did you say?
The heavens are filled with endless earths that are each have their own god or something like that.
The heavens are full of what?
Many
endless earths.
Yeah, endless earths that have their own god.
Yeah, I mean, you could technically, so you could say that's not in Mormon doctrine, but like it's really not much of a leap from Mormon doctrine.
It's a one-off of the framing
to get there. Yeah, you know, if you think you go to the temple and they say you will all be gods and goddesses and preside over your own worlds, with worlds without end. Well,
there was definitely
of course
as a young teenager joking with my friends, we talked about it like it would be like that. You know.
Yeah, you're like it is not
church or something, but that was part of our chit chat.
It's not even half a leap to say that there will be infinite planets with infinite gods on them. That's
or me and my young buddies.
It's not even another step in logic. That's just the same thing.
I 100% remember, like in scouting, a couple of my best friends just sitting there and shooting the shit, talking about what we would do with our planets. that we probably assumed would be travelable one to another with us. And it wasn't like it was a jokey conversation, but
Yeah, Dragon Ball Z planet for sure. That's what I always said.
We believe that God has created worlds without end, but we're not out here saying that every single one of those is ruled over by a different individual God who was once a man.
That's getting nitpicky on the.
Oh, that's very nitpicky.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, and Starbase Kolob and all of that other stuff. At this point, it's just a meme. But yeah, it's.
I don't think you should listen to any. Like, I don't think your opinion's valid if you can't open a jar of olives.
In the same vein, Kwaku, I don't think your opinion on our church is valid if your information.
Is that a fallacy?
Comes from a cartoon.
Yeah, but it's also a joke. So I don't care.
Caricature. It's demonstrated that you don't know anything about that church because you referenced a different church in regard to our church. You literally said, "Oh yeah, your church is run by this guy." No, or there's never. That's a totally different organization run by a different dude. Like that's how much he doesn't know, but he couldn't take the L. He just kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Okay,
Yeah.
and also this is borderline ad hominem. This is borderline ad hominem.
Borderline. I guarantee it's full on ad hominem. Whatever you're about to say.
Okay. So this is borderline ad hominem. All right, but I will say this only because he calls women sloppy, degenerate whores and OnlyFans thingies or whatever. I don't think it's off the table. But I will say this in defense of my fellow returned missionaries and guys that have served missions, and my buddy Kwaku here, fellow elder in the Elders Quorum here. I would say take the average picture and resume of a 21-year-old returned missionary Latter-day Saints that just finished doing this whole thing here, and then post physique and take picture of the average red pill dude, Andrew Wilson, or anti-Mormon evangelical at all.
Oh, God.
Physiognomy check them both, and I'm sorry, they look more like that than like this. And any day of the week, I will take the bell curve average of the average 21-year-old returned missionary, average 20-year-old returned missionary, and then a picture of whatever person is mocking them, whatever radio host is mocking them, whatever evangelical anti-Mormon is mocking them, whatever red pill bro is mocking them, and put it up against a picture of you in your 20s, and no comparison. Now I know some red pill bro is going to take this.
You're joking, right? You gotta be joking. Like, you know how many of those red pill guys are swole as fuck? Like, yeah, Andrew Wilson is like a dad bod, but
it's kind of funny because this is one of the things that went viral about Andrew Wilson right here, and this guy who went after him ended up being one of the biggest nuts in the world, and it's got the same energy of it.
You've never experienced it, so you can't speak about it.
You think that I haven't experienced wealth? Even
I was asking if you did.
Even poor people experience days of wealth.
I was asking if you did. I don't know who you are.
Poor people experience days of wealth. So the thing is,
no, definitely not.
Definitely so.
Not.
Definitely so.
I've lived the lowest lows and highest highs.
Well, what's the distinction? After you make hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you look at these studies done on this, it does not.
I don't fit no fucking studies.
It does not hugely improve a person's life.
Are you proud of who the fuck you are?
Why
look at if you look in the mirror, would you guys say this motherfucker's proud of who the fuck he is? That's a bag of trash, dude. Pull your fucking shirt
because
off.
I've been.
Tell me you're fucking proud of
I've been to fucking prison.
Jesus, look at you, bro. You got tenant arms and tits. Men don't have tits.
Oh, they go to prison where they get
fuck yeah.
You've
never been to prison. Look
That's
at
what
shit you don't know.
You go to prison.
Now you get your ass beat.
You think that's better? You think that's better?
Let's let him give his definition of success.
Whenever people go to that, no matter which side they're doing it from, like it's got that energy to me. Like, and this guy's the biggest douche in the world. If you look him up, Wes Watson, he's gone and gotten himself arrested for life because he went and assaulted some guy in a gym. Greg Doucette's got
Jesus
videos on him. Yeah, he's a dipshit. But that guy doesn't look good in this debate with Andrew Wilson here. Like, yeah, Andrew's a little dumpy, and he's got like 13 kids or something like that. You know what I mean? You're okay. I would give up my six-pack for a bunch of kids if I could, like right now. And I would have done that. You know what I mean?
I'd give up maybe.
Go ahead.
I'd give up maybe one of my kids for a six-pack. You know, maybe one. I'd have to figure out which one I don't like as much.
If you got a bunch of young kids, you're totally allowed a dad bod, and I would never come that way at people. Like even if these guys are doing it, you know, to try to make it like a claim about the argument. But on top of that too, I think I had remember back when Forrest was talking about fighting these guys and then said to do it, and I said Brad said he'd probably fight me if they do it, being totally nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I've given Brad some like guide advice for some of his acting roles and all that sorts of stuff. But I suggested them once it was kind of clear that we weren't going to do the fight. I said let's do a physique competition in place of the fight because Quaker's always posting his physique and all that sorts of stuff. So once again, I will level that out there. Physique competition. Could you beat a 46-year-old. Well, I'd be 46-year-old by the time. So, but yeah, Carden says, yeah, I'm sure there'll be one-off guys or whatever. But
Hey, it depends on the 46-year-old, I suppose. I mean, obviously you're decrepit, so of course I can kick your ass. That's funny shit. All right, I was resetting my modem.
Hold on a second, I got it on there. I've lost the screen. No.
Oh, the screen's gone?
No, I just lost it. Hold on. Gotta go back to this. Share this tab instead.
And then a picture of whatever person is mocking them, whatever radio host is mocking them, whatever evangelical anti-Mormon is mocking them, whatever red pill bro is mocking them, and put it up against a picture of you in your 20s, and no comparison. Now I know some red pill bro is going to take this, clip this, find some alpha Chad dude that was yoked in his 20s, and some, you know, overweight missionary that served in Detroit in 1996 or something. But if you take the bell curve average of the two making fun of Mormons in a live stream in his basement versus the guys that are out actually preaching the gospel, no comparison at all.
Yeah. So it goes on, right?
Yeah, the bell curve, that's true. But no, I would do a physique competition against 20-something Kwaku. If you
Hell yeah, I'll go for
the
it.
Results of your challenge might be, Carden. This is just factually incorrect. So their second claim is that Elohim was a special human who became a god and had cosmic sex and made 1 billion spirit babies. This is just the most bizarre way that you can say God is the father of our spirits. That's in the book of Hebrews. Like, what are they doing? Like, this is undermining their own beliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Forrest said that's an appeal to consequences stuff. Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things with all that stuff is like, I mean, I get what you guys were saying last week. We got it to the end that the appeal to consequences, like I said, most of those things, they're all kind of non sequiturs, but the appeal to consequences is necessarily saying that the consequence makes the premise true, you know. And that's what a fallacy is. But part of the problem with that, though, is that, as you pointed out, Jacob's always kind of pretty good to carve out that caveat before he says something like that. I don't know if these guys are saying that the Mormonism, well, are they saying that the Mormon lifestyle or the Mormon truthiness is making them shredded? You know,
he's kind of implying it. He
the Mormon truthiness.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's kind of just one of those things where the other guy's getting down in the dirt, so of course he's getting down in the dirt too. It's not even like I can really shit on him for it. I can kind of shit on him. Like,
well, that's
like,
what we'll do the physique competition, and I will chug 3 large cups of coffee every day. And
but honestly, if you were, I would say that if you were looking for the religion who was best following God, especially, you would have to first assume that God gives a damn about how you treat your body. But most theists assume that. I'd say that, yeah, it actually totally makes sense that the buffest theists, like the highest concentration of buff theists, would be the correct one. The consequences of that would actually sort of indicate which one's the true one.
Well, but beyond that too, I actually think I know of a famous Orthodox bodybuilder. Who is it?
Now would it be the theism that has the strongest guy, or would it be the theism that has the strongest concentration of guys?
Check this out. He's got a whole channel, the Orthodox bodybuilder, and that's part of the problem. Is like Carden was saying, like basement debate me, bro, guys, but like these are just ortho guys, and I think there's a bunch of ortho bodybuilders, if I remember right. So
basement, it's such a stupid fucking insult. Like it's boomer shit, Carden.
To attack God being our father in this way, you know, it also pulls the idea from the King Father that God was once a man, right?
They believe that too. Why do they get mad at us? They believe Jesus is God. Jesus was a man. We just say the same thing's true about Heavenly Father. Oh wait, they don't believe Heavenly Father is a father because they don't believe he's a guy. They don't believe he's a human. Westminster Confession says he's without body, parts, or passions. He's a genderless, invisible, omnipresent idea,
amorphous thing. Yeah,
and something
that's ridiculous.
They really hammer home in the cartoon, just a man, right? Like, and the thing is, they believe that God descended to become like Jesus Christ. Even in the King Follett sermon, Joseph Smith is talking about God having been a man like Christ was. right? So even at the worst possible interpretation of this, we still believe what.
Wait, God was a Christ? God wasn't a me. God wasn't a me. God was a Christ.
Well, do you remember ever hearing guys like on your mission talking about that?
No, I thought about that because I think we have so much time as stinking young guys and guys on missions that we end up doing all these different little thought things. You know what I mean? So like whenever we do all those things, almost all of us go there. And I totally thought, what if God was a Holy Ghost on his planet, or or something like that, or like what? How did he get his body? Did he go through? Was he actually some dude who grew up like me?
Sorry, I was on the wrong headphones there.
Yeah.
You
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Well, I was just saying, like, are they saying that God was actually some dude like me who was just born in a nowhere town in Utah and made it to that, or did he get born as a prophet, or was he born as a, whatever?
Well, I remember having that conversation. They were like, "Do you guys think that God was like Heavenly Father? Do you think he was the savior on his planet?" And I was like, "No." And they were like, "Why not?" I was like, "Because the odds aren't great."
Yeah, it's got to be one of 7. Well, how many billions have lived?
Well,
there's 7 billion now.
It's how many billions have lived, but you would narrow it down a little bit by how many billions have lived well enough to make it to the celestial kingdom. Unless, of course, you believe in eternal progression, in which case God could have been such an asshole that he went to outer darkness, was then recycled into another life, lived a better life, again, came up through the ranks, and eventually, after trillions of years, became a god. That's a possibility, but that's even so. In Mormon theology, it's really difficult to go to outer darkness, but that is it. It's more likely that you'll go to outer darkness than that you will be Jesus, right? So, like, it's more likely that God went to outer darkness than that he's Jesus, but it's most likely that God went to the celestial kingdom.
Starvis says there's no support for regress in the canon. Eternal and uncreated is what all scriptures say. This, since we're not going to probably get the Colby Jacob debate, which would be killer, that is actually a point that Hayden and Jacob say they disagree on. I forget which one is which, but they disagree on internal regression versus not. Those two, the two in the Abraham video. I don't know. I liked playing with all these different thoughts, and there's part of me that kind of goes, I can't get on board with the ortho bro stuff of just like what you become one with God and Jesus, like that's the end of stuff. Or I mean, theirs is kind of more a little bit esoteric, coming from that world of Orthodox stuff. So it's a little bit like just becoming part of the oneness with God and Christ in heaven. But I don't know if it's harps and clouds and all that sort of stuff, but the Mormon thing always made more sense to me, just in the sense of keep on working, keep on going, keep on making. I almost kind of can't put myself in the brain of just thinking that it's the harp and the cloud,
Yeah, that does sound not a lot of fun. I mean, like I said before, what about basketball? Don't you want to be able to play basketball with your homies?
Yeah.
If you're all just supremely talented, then
I can't get around the fact, like we talk about the thing, like I can't help, even if I can put on paper that I think people are meat bodies and I can't stop looking at the souls. I also just auto imagine Mormon heaven still, like if people say heaven or something like that.
Yeah.
I auto imagine all the family there and working towards becoming gods and something temple-ish, that's just what would pop in my head if somebody said it in a second.
General Christianity believes about God coming down to be Christ.
Well, no. See, God
He's still divine.
Could never come be a man because God circumference is everywhere and his center is nowhere. He's a metaphysical, borderless miasma, but he's also Jesus. So God became a man, and then a man went back to being God, but he was always God because he is his. Hi, me, it's me. He is him. He's his dad, but he's also, and the Holy Spirit had to.
So, but all that framing right there, the Christian people might be just as upset at the quick, snarky framing of that as Jim Bob was of the Mormon description in their cartoon, right? But Quake is pretty right, just like the cartoon's pretty right. It's just like you're not allowed to talk about stuff if you say it in a sneering or way, I guess.
Go to impregnate so he could give birth to himself. If you don't believe this, well, it's because you're a cultist. And if you get mad at me for not being able to explain it, well, it's because the Holy Spirit hasn't indwelt in you.
And they ignore stuff like early church fathers like Athanasius, who said, God became man so that man may become God. Right? Like, there's some interesting stuff.
Athanasius was a feminist. As a red pill.
Yeah, well, and Origen was excommunicated, even though he was posthumously excommunicated, even though he was literally a patristic father. And when you look at all the reasons why they excommunicated him, yeah, Mormon doctrine. Like, the earliest Christians were far more Mormon than they were anything else. Anything else, Protestant, Catholic, any of that. They were far more members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in terms of their doctrine than anything else. So
next up, we've got claim 3. Right?
Okay, hit it.
Claim 3 is you can get your own planet too.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, Carden, your favorite used car salesman pitch of a missionary discussion, right? This is just a ridiculous framing of our doctrine of eternal progression. And I've had so many Exmos argue with me on this. They're like, it's equally as ridiculous to say that you create your own planet. I'm like, no. The difference isn't between you get a planet or you create a planet. The difference is we believe we are children of God. We believe that we have the potential to become like him. And we believe that any creation of planets in the ongoing eternity is going to be for the glorification of God. This is designed to make evangelicals think that we're trying to usurp God, that we're jealous of his glory, and that we're trying to overtake.
Brad, come on, Brad. Brad, that's Brad. That's the same thing, Brad. Come on, man.
Every one of these things is like, you guys, you're running.
What are you talking about?
They're running at the stuff of the cipher that's ridiculous, and this stuff that's your cool beliefs, you're running away from.
I know.
Like, yeah, we got planets. It's cool.
Like, yeah, just see, like, yeah, Christians, fuck you, frick you, I guess, whatever you want to say. That's a cool belief that you. But Brad, come on, Brad, come on, like, seriously, this. It's not a difference between us making planets and getting our own planets. It's that creating planets is glorification of God. Okay, all 3 of those things you said result in you having stewardship over a planet. So it's the same thing.
Would it be? Am I like out in the night? Would it be such a bad thing to just do the Chad face, like yes to it?
No.
Like, why?
I've said this a million times, and I even posted that in Thoughtful Saints one time. Is it? No, you can't be a Christian. You think that you're gonna get your own planet and be a god? And Chad, yes. And there was a bunch of people. There's a couple people replied really well to it that were like, "Get your own world? How about worlds without end?" I was like, "Yeah, fuck you. I mean, fuck yeah. That's how you own your Mormon beliefs. Just own it. It's Chad shit. You're an alpha, man. Just stay there."
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, ever since I've been went on with the word radio, that was really what I was questioning them or talking to them about, because it even goes back to the culture stuff. I'm like, why are you guys running from the things that were good from you and running towards the things that were difficult with you? And it seems that both in the beliefs and in the cultural practices and stuff like that. Like, go back to road shows and we get planets. Road shows and we get planets and basketball, and run away from. We're gonna just strip everything down to very base level theology and.
Oh my God! What if Mormon culture had, like, this is just my fan fiction, right? What if Mormon culture had an influence on legitimate Mormon theology? Like, it actually had an influence on what was true. And like back in the 80s and 90s, they had this real thing where they were all going to become gods, and they were all going to play church ball and all that shit. But now we're being longhoused by a bunch of managerial HR ladies, and we're just going to get nerfy heaven. Like, we're
Like, no, everybody gets to go to the. Well, we're not going to do this social kingdom anymore, but we're going to have a kingdom. And everybody goes to the same kingdom because we don't want anybody to feel left out. And once you get here, you got to be nice to everybody.
You don't want to get a
better
heaven,
than anybody.
You don't want to get a cut on your heavenly body. You don't want to get any boo-boos on your heavenly knees. And we don't want the heavenly lawyers to get upset if there's a fight at the heavenly basketball court.
If anybody starts excelling, we will give them a heavenly demerit.
Jared goes to Mormon heaven and is like, it's real. You get to play basketball like you were talking about. He's like, oh boy, except for angel lawyers say you could get hurt.
We're going to play flag basketball here. I don't know what flag basketball is, but it means no touching the ball. You let him have 20 minutes where he tries to shoot a way up, and if he makes the way up, then he wins and you win. Yay!
Heaven's run by angel lawyers and the HR lady. Yay! I mean, how is that not what it is on Earth here? I mean, it's all HR ladies and lawyers running it too. So we just realized that that's what heaven is too.
Chris, we already died. We already died, and this is purgatory. Fuck.
Yeah, that's I have that. I keep suddenly like coming up with like lyrics from some of my songs nowadays. But one of my songs says, "I've lost the view of like your heaven is the place that I want to be," and that's really is kind of what the thing that I felt back then. And the more you think about this, I don't know that I didn't think it wasn't going to be that way. Like you go to heaven up there, and it's gonna be. We were talking today about how in the MTC they told me just wait until Tuesday. You'll make it to Tuesday and you're gonna feel better. And I waited till Tuesday and I got to listen to a talk from an old white lawyer.
Oh, dude, I heard the
I almost broke. That's the moment I broke. What's that?
I heard the wait till Tuesday thing too.
Yeah, because you're miserable like the first week. You're having a real tough time. People are probably like in tears and all that stuff. You just left your family. There's just make it Tuesday. Just make it Tuesday because you go in on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I know. It's not even a missing the family thing. It's a, oh my God, this is the furthest I'll ever be away from anything enjoyable in my life.
Oh yeah, I totally felt that too.
That was I have never and probably will never be as depressed as I was on the first week of my mission.
Me too, but like somewhere in the middle of it, like I had the feeling of, did you ever like do this in your head? It seems like Mormons, we have so much time to sit around. We have some of it spent thinking about the planets we'll have, and when you run out of that, you use the rest of the time counting time that you're sitting in places, which is also what I thought might have happened in heaven. I'd be sitting there counting time because that seemed to be a lot of my Mormon experience. But there was some days on my mission where I thought, what was I doing 1 month ago? I was doing this. What will I be doing 2 months from now? I'll be doing this. What will I be doing 1 year, 3 months from now? I'll be doing this. Like
frame it in the most depressing way.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
And when you were sitting there in that moment thinking about that, it felt like more mud than I'd ever.
What's really funny is my entire life I have had some gruesome nightmares. Like one of my first dreams I ever remember having.
I mission nightmare just last night. Oh my gosh!
I'm not talking about mission nightmare. I'm saying I've had some gruesome nightmares. So like one of the first nightmares I ever remember having, I was seriously probably like 5 maybe, and there was several nightmares. There was one where a demonic Homer Simpson was chasing me with a club, and the town I was in was eerily empty except for me and him. There was one where a dude was chasing me and my brother upstairs, and the stairs were littered with bear traps, and he was firing shots at our backs. He hit me. And then the last one was this dude, like, he was dressed in a Santa costume. He had me sit on his lap, and then, like, the dream zooms out, and I can watch him eating my head, like, just biting into the top of my skull, and I saw everything, and it was brutal. I've had those type of dreams all my life, and I usually at this point wake up like, oh fuck, that's weird, whatever, then I go back to sleep. But my God, those mission dreams, they were constant,
You don't get them anymore? I had one last night, dead serious.
Did you
just
really?
reminded me of it. Yep.
I still get them like once every couple months or so. But dude, when I got off my mission, it was like 3-4 times a week for years and years. And it is kind of and those sucked. Like these gruesome dreams. Like I just be like, oh, whatever, and go back to sleep. And then this the mission dreams are like
yeah, I get those. I get those still. And well,
I
I have my
then.
older brother even says he has them. He's still like totally in and all that stuff. But we usually have the thing. This didn't happen last night. Last night I was on it. A lot of times I'll have it and it'll be current day me, but I somehow ended up there. And so I'm like, wait a minute, I got a job. I got to call into my job. I can't do the mission. I got to like I'm there, but I got to think of my current day stuff. And I can't do this mission now. What about this stuff? And
see,
then I have to go to the mission.
My mind is totally changed now because it used to be like every now and then the dream would have the theme of like you're back in time on the mission.
Yeah, I had that. That was last night was back in time.
Yeah,
and it was the beginning of the mission.
Most time it's for me anyway, it was you're getting called on another mission and like you have no
I've
choice.
had that one too.
And I'd be like, but I'm married and I have a job and stuff. I can't but then I'd always be like, I have to go. And what got me to stop having those dreams as much, I still have them, was eventually, like, in the dream, they'd be like, okay, you're going back to Brazil for 2 more years. And I, like, have kids. And at this point, like, my kids are important enough to me that, like, even the most insecure parts of me are gonna be like, hey, fuck you.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I land in Brazil, I just go off. I'm like, you know what? I'll see my kids pretty soon, but right now I'm gonna go see Brazil a little bit.
Yeah, well, I get it. Sometimes I get it. It's like a couple years later, and I'm deciding to do a second one. And I'm like, part of me will be like, why am I the only person doing a second one? Which, speaking of which, did you hear lately that some guys have been getting called on 1-year missions for sports?
Sports?
Yeah, for sports, like if they have like a football scholarship or something like that, they've been getting called on legit 1-year missions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they RF and Bill Real and Rebecca have covered it, and you can see it because the people like announce it and they're we're going on a mission and that sort of stuff. It's from this time to this time. Like, wait, that's 1 year. Anyway, I would have liked that, but yeah, I'm always in my second mission. I'm like, why am I the only person I have to go on to? And I've done this before. I could do it again, but oh my gosh, like that sort of thing. The mission was traumatizing, man. But Mitchell Clark says, am I the only crazy one that liked the MTC? I ended up liking my zone, the guys in my zone. I ended up liking them a whole lot.
I like most of those guys, but no, I did not like the MTC. I fucking hated it so much. And they all tell you, they're like, yeah, you say that as soon as you get out into the field, it's going to get better, but it doesn't. You'll miss the MTC. I never missed the MTC.
I did. I just missed the rest of it in the sense of resting of it because later by the time I was out, it was just go. And I was like, well, I kind of miss sitting around joking with my friends.
Yeah, you're right. We used to play Bouncy Balls of Steel, which is a game that I made up where we would stand at game. We would stand at either end of the dorm. And whoever was it had the ball, and whoever wasn't faced the other wall, ass out, and then you just throw it as hard as you could. And then it was, if you got the ball back, you could throw it again. But if he got the ball back, it was his turn to throw it. And it was whoever gives up first loses. Because I had just finished watching a bunch of Jackass before I went on my mission, so...
Troy, I like the big group meetings where everybody would sing. Mitchell, don't forget ironing board matrix pictures. My MTC guys, we probably blasphemed, and we started making ad-lib scriptures where we'd pass the scripture around the room, and each person added the next verse, and then it would get back to you, and you get to read it, and we'd die laughing at the stuff that we had written in there, type stuff. And we decided to leave that somewhere in the MTC, so maybe some people found some scripture, and it was a cipher. We left a cipher for others to get some stuff back. But there's this one guy in the MTC that cracked me up, man. He swear in prayers. Like he'd be sitting there playing like, God, damn it, why can't I do better? Like say stuff like that. Oh man, he just laughed. I'd laugh so hard at him.
Did I tell you about the comic book? I wrote a comic on my mission, and it was called The Adventures of Elder Jackass. And I was Elder Jackass. And man, that comic swore.
Oh, it did?
Much. Oh yeah, it was dropping F-bombs all the time. I was dropping F-bombs on my mission because most of my companions were Brazilian and they couldn't understand it. They I was cursing, but they didn't understand how badly I was cursing.
I didn't curse my whole mission, I don't think.
Oh, I cursed like a racehorse. Like a racehorse.
Pissed like a racehorse? Cursed
Yeah,
like a racehorse?
I
That's
cursed
pretty good.
like a racehorse. I pissed like a sailor too.
I swear all the time now, but no, I did not when I was a missionary.
No, it's funny. It was the Adventures of Elder Jackass, and then I got back home, and then I met Morgan, and she kept asking about my mission, and I mentioned my comic, and Morgan, like, you've only known her as she is now. Like, she swears like a sailor. She swears more than I do. But
she was
when I
not
met her,
open.
she was the Mormonist person I maybe have ever met. She's one of the only Mormons I've ever met that was into Christian rock when I met her. And she asked about
Is that worse than my mom who wouldn't let us listen to Christian rock because it could convert us?
Yeah.
Which one's worse? Which one's more Mormon?
I don't know which was more Mormon, but listening to Christian rock is worse because Christian rock sucks. But she
What Christian rock? Asked Rista.
Oh, I don't remember. I mean, the ones that I didn't mind so much. She listened to a lot of 10th Avenue North, and they weren't as bad as a lot of the rest of them. But there was a lot of them I didn't like. It's most Christian rock is cheesy as hell. You can write really good songs about Jesus and about God, and it feels like most mainstream Christian rock doesn't do that. But most mainstream country doesn't write good music, so I guess that's just how it is. But I showed Morgan that comic at one point. She wanted to see it because I told her about it, and I went into my notebook where I had written it all down, and I edited everything. Like instead of
you did dirty flicks to it.
Yeah. Instead of Elder Douchebag, instead of Elder Jackass, it was Elder Douchebag now.
Oh, you edited it the good direction. Oh, I thought you were making it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so I blacked out all the swear words, and I might have even been such a little pussy that I told her that, oh yeah, I just put a black box in there to make it look like it was swear. I don't remember. I might have done that. I might have not. I might have been honest with her. I don't know, but.
Steve said his wife went the other direction. She used to swear a lot, and now she's gone all Mormonist to Mormon of all time. Steve said earlier that maybe we're the three Nephites. He's on to us. Man.
He's figured it out.
Yeah. I think I showed it on here before, but I have like all the doodles in my mission guidebook and that stuff. But man, the stuff we did to try to stay entertained in the brain. I actually heard that Landon, the Mormonish guys, he's Rebecca Biblioteca's co-host, that he actually counted every half hour of the mission, just like I did. He said he had
half hour?
Well, you had these forms. I don't know if you guys had them by that time. There are these colored forms that had like your whole day mapped like out and that sort of stuff.
Exact obedience.
And it wasn't just for obedience. I was counting the time down. And so I kept every single one. I have them somewhere. I kept every single one of them. I mean, maybe an hour. I bet you the longest that ever went past was an hour and a half that I would stop and mark them off because I was just counting down the whole entire time.
Sometimes I think we're very similar, and sometimes I realize you were a lot more scrupulous than I was.
That one wasn't to be good. That one was just because I was going nuts, just sitting there getting bored.
I take it back. I think I was just as scrupulous as you were, but I just didn't.
You could have more fun on the mission.
Well, I definitely had more fun on the mission, but it's because I did the wrong thing knowing it was the wrong thing and just dealt with all the guilt the scruples brought me.
I brought it up here before, but I mean, it's absolutely true. I even had the guy on, but the dude with the tattoo on his back of the thing, he said his biggest testimony from the mission came from me. I think he'll even say it to this day. His biggest testimony for the mission came from me because I did not hide the fact that I didn't like it, and I followed every rule. Like I followed it scrupulously. Like I was out the door by 9:30. I was home by 9.
See, I did that
I
for
was
a year.
honest that I did not like it. I was just 100% honest that it was a pain in my ass. And
I was honest the whole time that I didn't like it, but I did the obedient thing for a year. But the next year, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep being honest and tell everyone how much I hate it, and I'm not gonna fuck this. I don't like this. I don't want to be here. Plus, I believed I wasn't worthy to be there anyway because I never confessed to all the porn that I did. So I was like, it's not like it's gonna be any worse for me if I'm disobedient or obedient.
Flores says, I've always thought it's crazy the missionaries can just walk off and go home if they wanted to. I mean, I had that in the MTC. I'm like, it's my house is just right over there, and it feels 2 years away. But when I was in Mexico City, I felt like I'd flown to Mars.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt that at all. It's like
for sure.
It didn't feel like I could just get there if I wanted to.
Well, and I like, I'm sure it's this way in Mexico to some degree, but like I know in Brazil, the streets are a lot thinner, and I'd say the traffic laws are a lot less conservative, and so most of what we do is play Frogger trying to get through busy streets. And we would jump to the median, which is a lot thinner. It's seriously like 3 feet thick is the median, and you got buses just whizzing by on either side of you. And I would always think when I was standing on that median, waiting for it to clear up, I was like, if there was just some way I could just step into the street and break my leg, they would have to send me home, right?
Oh, there was so many people who had injuries
that
were in the office. And
but
we all knew that they were fakers.
I always wanted the injury to be unambiguously real. Like I didn't want people to look at me like I was faking it because I'm very fake.
Yeah, I wanted to be real too because most of those guys that were in there, my very first zone meeting out in the field on my mission, little fat Mexican dude. He was even like an older guy. He comes up to me and bets me that he couldn't touch this light on the ceiling in the thing for like 5 pesos. And I didn't know it that moment, or 50 pesos. At that moment, I didn't know that 50 pesos was a lot. It was kind of a lot there. And I didn't even think it was that because I was like, what's that, $5 or something? And the little short dude jumps up and catches it. I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, what's your name? What are you doing? It was actually an impressive jump. I didn't think he could do it. I asked him like where he was, and he says, I'm going to the offices. I hurt my knee. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it was right after he just did this amazing jump and got 50 pesos off of me. And I'm like, oh, that literally happened exactly like that. Almost like it was out of like a joke, like if it was made by the God's Army guy or something. Like you just made that jump and you're going to the mission offices because you hurt your knee. And you're going to be an office holder.
Heck yeah.
I was going to try to look at what we should do one of these times is try to use Google Earth and pull up the areas that we actually walked around in on our mission and look at them.
We can do that.
Yeah, we should do that one of these times. I was starting to pull up now and said we should save it for next time or something like that. But we could do that. That'd be pretty funny. Yeah. Being an officer, I've had a taint in my mission. It totally had a taint in my mission. Actually, had a taint of being not at home, but the AP had taints on my mission because we had
what?
The AP.
No. Had a what?
Had a taint. It's like a bad smell to it. Yeah, I think that's an actual phrase of saying like it's tainted.
Oh, okay. It's tainted to be about the area between your nutsack and your butthole.
Yeah.
Of course he had a taint. We all do.
Anyway, what was I talking about? I forgot.
Your AP had a taint.
Oh, the APs on my mission, every single time we had one who really was the stellar guy and one who was a dog shit person. And we had a president who felt some of these guys who were dog shit, they would just get the gumption back if you gave them some position of high power. There's actually almost every single one of that. We had our zone leaders. One was a stud. One was a piece of shit. It was almost all of them. He had that belief of doing it that way. And
you know, what's funny is when I was first. So when I got to Brazil, there was a troubled missionary, and then I was the brand new missionary. And the president, for whatever reason, decided to separate his APs. And the senior AP went to me to train me. And then the junior AP went to the troubled missionary to kind of help him out. And so we're all in the same house with me and the troubled missionary, the APs, and the secretaries. And it was really funny because the junior AP, man, he had a guitar. And I was so excited to learn he had a guitar. Like, so excited because I thought I wasn't allowed to have one. Later, it pissed me off because I remember emailing my mission president and being like, hey, I saw that the AP had a guitar. I was going to buy a guitar, but I thought I'd check with you first just to make sure it's okay. And he told me no, he's focus on your mission work. And I was so fucking mad. Eventually, I was like, you know what? Fuck you. And I bought one. But it was funny because
you were allowed to have them on my mission. That's one of the cool things about mine.
Well, we were if you didn't ask.
Yeah.
And I got pissed off enough at my president by the end that I just didn't ask. I was like, you know what? Fuck you. You let the higher up guy
at
have
the end. How long did you wait?
No, not at the end. It was about halfway in. Seriously, like maybe a little bit less than halfway in because
I had one a month in, but it was a shitty guitar, but it lasted the whole time.
I still have my guitar. It's real shitty. It's seriously the fretboard. The frets are longer than the board. So
wow!
If you made your hand up it, you'll scrape it.
Ouch!
I've cut myself on that shit a bunch. But it was
mine was just real light, but I left it for somebody else when I left. So
yeah, it's funny because the junior AP he had that guitar, and he didn't know how to play shit. Like they thought I was super talented at guitar because I could play like Under the Bridge by the Chili Peppers. This dude, it was seriously like solid downstroked quarter notes, just 4 chord songs. And he insisted on singing everything not falsetto and in the octave that it was written in. And he wanted to sing a bunch of Taylor Swift songs.
What?
Yeah. So he has to shriek them.
What?
Yeah, no, seriously. In order to not falsetto,
I can't even picture this dude.
And he it's weird because he's like really buff. Like he's a real gym rat. Yeah, he was
taking turns on.
He was mostly a cool dude, but it was funny. He just starts downstroke quarter notes. Romeo, take me somewhere he can be alone. You know, it sounded terrible, but it was funny as hell.
At that point in my life, everybody wanted to hear. It was the 90s, so everybody wanted to hear Dave Matthews. So I had to know a bunch of Dave Matthews songs, and I'd play them the Dave Matthews songs just to get through it. And then, since nobody else could listen to music or anything, and we could have the guitar there, people would get real into having you play them some songs. I guess that's what it was like before everybody had the radio and everything in the world. Like, you didn't have to compete with all the best musicians in the world. You just had to be the one who could play that night. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But
I was probably the second best guitarist on the entire mission.
me and my other buddy were for sure the only two who really played.
And the distance between me and number one was not even close. Like, it was insane. Like, I was quite a bit better than most of the other people, but that's because they could just play 4 chords and downstroke. That's about all they could do. But this other guy, Edward Rodriguez, holy shit. I couldn't name a song that he couldn't just play from memory. He was incredible. He's fucking amazing.
Yeah, me and my other buddy, we got to be companions for a little bit. The dude with the thing on his back, and he's from Louisiana and plays the blues. And he and I would play around and write songs and stuff like that, and try to play songs that other people knew or could play along with or do and stuff like that. But it was all kind of mostly 90s music. So some of that 90s, to be the guys who could play like all the 90s songs, that's kind of not that like impressive. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense? Like most 90s one-hit wonders are all really easy, if that makes any sense.
This is way out of tune, but you get the
Yeah, so we could do some like soloing over each other playing the blues and stuff like that. And then everything else was like, you know, play us some Dave Matthews, play us some I don't know. Everybody liked the 80s stuff too.
But the 70s stuff was almost entirely power chords.
Yeah. So
Ooh,
yeah, we were able to play a
nice.
bunch of stuff, but nothing was. I mean, I'm trying to think like when I'm like I was playing since I was 14, so I was and he had been too. So like we were good enough, you know. And we played in bands and that sort of stuff. So, but we weren't shredders at that point, you know. So, anyway, I should probably get calling it good because I'm probably still gonna go walk this dog. In the middle of the show, he pulled my socks off, and
kick his ass.
Yeah, he needs a punishment. He's afraid of the dark, so that's punishment enough. So.
Little bitch ass bitch.
Anyway, thanks for all hanging out. That guy, they're asking, was that guy LGBTQ or Q?
I said no.
Oh, you said you don't think so? Yeah, Diane.
I mean, he's married with kids now.
Oh, yeah. All right. I don't know of anybody on my mission that's.
I think I told you about one.
You know one that like came out or something?
There was one that got sent home for making a pass at his companion. But
in the middle of it.
Yeah. But then there was this other one who, like, the second I met him, I knew he was gay. He's like, "Olha, Elder, meu nome é Elder Bezerra, como vai?" And he's from Rio Grande do Norte. He just sounded very, very gay and effeminate. And I'm pretty sure I told this story on here before. Like maybe a year or two after my mission, he sends me a message on Facebook, seeing how I'm doing, and after a while, he's like, "Can I tell you something private?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course," because I got along with him well. And he's like, "Elder, I'm gay," and I was like, "All right, man, that's fine. You know, you do your thing." And he was like, "I'm just kidding. You just accepted that like it was nothing." And I was like, "Yeah."
Oh man.
Why did you just accept that? Because you said it pretty sincerely. And I didn't say this, but it's not difficult for you to believe that you're gay. You're very effeminate. I knew you were gay.
That's funny. My first companion was definitely something, but I don't know, and I'll never know. He passed away already, so. But he definitely was strange. He's the one I told you about. My first president, who was only there a couple months, allowed worldly music on P days.
Ooh.
But it would drive me crazy because that guy would refuse to go to where the rest of the guys in the zone were meeting, and they'd play basketball and have tacos and stuff.
Ooh.
He refused. He wanted to stay home and go in his room and dance to this disco music.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Alone in the room. Yeah. And I'd see him in there dancing around to it. And never saw him marry a guy or anything, but maybe he wanted to.
Oh, good for him.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, mission stories. All right, I gotta take this doggy out.
All right.
Thanks for hanging out.
Enjoy a little huckleberry. All right.
All right.
See you, man.
Later, everybody.